1 minute. Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. Today, our student representative is Jordan Wager from Northport High School and will lead us in the pledge. The Northport High School JROTC cadets will present the colors. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did have, this evening, we did have scheduled on the agenda the Inglewood Elementary Soaring Eagles Show Choir, and we look forward to seeing them in the near future. They did have to cancel due to illness, and we wish them well and a speedy recovery. Our student representative today is, again, Jordan Wager from Northport High School. Welcome, Jordan. It's nice to have you join us as a student representative, and we want to know more about you.
All right. Well, I'm part of ROTC program at Northborough High School. I've been in it for 4 years, from freshman to senior year. I'm the commanding officer, which is the top staff position there. So I know just about everything about ROTC. It entirely shaped me into who I am today. I'm part of the ACE program, and my plan for life after high school is I'm going to Norwich University up in Vermont. I'm doing the ROTC program with the NPP scholarship for 5 years. So essentially my tuition and my room and board is entirely paid for, along with the MOA scholarship, which is going into my back pocket, which is pretty nice.
Jordan, we'd like to thank you for serving as our student representative, and I have a certificate to present you with, and we wish you the luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
For this evening's special presentation, we will be recognizing district students who have received state championship recognitions. I'd like to invite James Slayton to approach the podium and begin the recognitions, please.
We've come together to recognize the amazing state championship accomplishments of the Sarasota High boys basketball team and Venice High wrestler Milana Borelli. I'd like to thank Superintendent Connor, the school board attorney Duggan, for realizing the importance of recognizing these great accomplishments by our district's athletes and teams. These fine students exhibit the very characteristics that our district desires, and that's from all of our student athletes to be the best citizens, students, and athletes they can possibly be. The first representative today is Venice High's Milana Borelli, who was the girls' 120-pound wrestling state champion. I want to thank Venice High School Principal Zoltan Koresli, Assistant Principal Mike Rainey, Athletic Director Pete Dombrowski, for their support and efforts to make Venice High athletics great. And at this time, we will welcome Venice High School wrestling coach Jeremy Cook.
Appreciate you guys having us up here to celebrate Milana Borelli. I could spend all night talking about her accomplishments, but to be honest with you, the biggest thing that separates her from the way that she competes is her mentality, the perseverance to battle adversity. She fought through a major injury in the beginning of the year and did not let that stop her, and ended up competing at the highest of levels, not surrendering a single point in the state tournament. And she's one of the top 15 girls in the country, and to be honest with you, that's severely underrated. She's got a bright future ahead of her. She's got a bright future ahead of her with one more year left of high school, and the sky's the limit. So thank you for having us, and please let's congratulate Milana Borelli.
A little fun fact about Milana, she is a defending state champion. So she was a state champion last year, and she'll have an opportunity to go for a three-peat next year. So pretty cool. The second recognition will be for a team who won the FHSAA Academic State Championship for boys basketball, and that is Sarasota High School, and they had an unweighted GPA of 3.65. Talking to coach, they even have someone on this team that has a 5.2. Which I didn't even know was possible, but that is amazing, amazing. Greatest accomplishment. I want to thank Sarasota High Principal Ryan Chase, Assistant Principal Robin Livingston, and Athletic Director BJ Ivy for all their support and efforts to make Sarasota High athletics great. And at this time, we will welcome not only our Athletic Director at Sarasota High, but the boys basketball coach, BJ Ivy.
Superintendent Connor, School Board, really appreciate you guys having us and recognizing the accomplishments of these young men off the court in the classroom. However, I do want to make sure that you guys understand that these young men created goals for themselves. 4 of the goals were very much process-driven. They really bought into the idea of every day being very intentional about how you go about doing things, not only in the classroom, but also in the hallways and then on the practice court and the games as well. They set themselves a goal of a 3.3 unweighted GPA, and they obviously far surpassed that. They truly live up to the student-athlete concept. Super, super proud of them, and I think a lot of it goes back to their parents. Being raised in a family where education was instilled at an early age made my life super easy as a head basketball coach, just to kind of encourage that. I'd like to recognize these guys one at a time. But before we do that, I also want to point out that this isn't a basketball team that was just good in the classroom. This team was ranked in the top 10 in the state, 7A all year. They won 24 games, only had 3 losses, won the first district championship in Sarasota High since 2006. They put together back-to-back 20-win seasons, which is, honestly, went back into the Sarasota High records, and I ran out of records before I could find another team that went back-to-back with 20 wins. So these guys excelled not only in the classroom, but on the court as well. Senior, number 1, we'd like to recognize Franklin Liriano. Senior, number 2, Jax Zader. Junior, number 3, Nick Triembo. Junior, number 4, Aaron Clark. Also a junior, number 5, Oliver Boyle. Next one is a senior, Luca Lazzari. All right, number 12, senior, Mike Drayton III. Sophomore, number 13, Christian Drayton. Number 15, senior, Danny Munn. I think this next young man deserves a little special recognition. He's a senior, he's number 20, he's Nate Gruel, but he's also up for a National Merit finalist, right? The next young man is a senior, number 23, Armani Sanchez. Next young man is a freshman, number 30, Johnny LeCaff. Our next one is a 5.2 GPA, right? Still talking to coach, I have no idea how that's possible. I got to have answers. I thought a 5.0 as high as it went. But number 33, Harris Hawk. And last but not least, senior Connor Wamsley.
It's okay, we're good. It's about these guys.
Congratulations, guys. Well done.
It's well done, Sarasota High School and Venice High School. Let's give them a loud round of applause. State recognitions are extraordinarily hard to come by. Superintendent Connor, your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. And wow, it is April already. This year is rapidly coming to an end, and we've got a lot still to accomplish over the next 8 weeks. I'm looking forward to a strong season of testing as we enter that period, and closing out the school year safe and sound and rolling into the summer. For tonight, I want to highlight a couple of, 21 consent items that are on the agenda tonight. The approval of the revised policies. We had several of them that have been brought forth, and again, I want to thank Mr. Parento and all his hard work and our legal team for working through this process. It's very meticulous, and we want to make sure that we're aligned to legislation, and so we are happy to put this on consent tonight for approval. A couple of achievements we want to recognize. One, Daniel Espinal, he's an alumni of Sarasota High. He was one of 5 winners in the Metropolitan's Opera 2024 LaFont competition, so congratulations to Daniel. For the first time, 2 of Bayhaven's teams placed first and second place in the Odyssey of the Mind state competition. So in doing so, they qualify for the world competition coming up in May. Also, Pineview qualified and will be joining them as well. So congratulations to Bayhaven and Pineview. And we are very excited. The Florida Department of Education announced its 3 finalists for Principal of the Year, and we have one of our own right here in Sarasota County who is a finalist for the Florida Principal of the Year, Principal Kirk Hutchinson from Venice Elementary. Well deserved, and we are looking forward to you bringing home the title for us here this year. So just want to make an announcement around school registration. That is opening up this month for new students. It'll open up on April 4th, and re-registration opens up on the 18th. So we ask that all registrations will be done in our new Focus platform this year, and that should make things very, hopefully, very easy. So we know anytime that we're transitioning to a new platform, technology sometimes can have a hiccup or two, but this, we're really excited of our new student information system that allows us to do registration and have an all-encompassing student information system. So that is underway this month, so be on the lookout. Also, we will be having our annual climate surveys opening up. So for parents, we will open up that survey on the 8th, and we will close that in 1 month on May 8th. And for instructional and non-instructional staff, it will open on the 15th and be open for a month. We want to encourage every one of our constituents, our parents, our instructional and non-instructional staff, to take advantage of the opportunity to give us feedback. That's how we continue to get better in our school district, is to have a mindset, a culture of continuous improvement, and we do that through your transparent and honest feedback. So please take part in that. Very excited to talk about the launching of our new website. One of the things that I heard over and over again in my transition was, when are we going to change that website? And so I'm happy to say on April 12th, we are going to be launching our new website along with an app that will eventually be a very, very multifaceted communication tool, but it will be it will have all the information needed for accessing lunch menus, bus routes. It will eventually be a communication tool between teachers and students, or coaches and students, that will launch later in the year. But we're really excited about that, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something that's very unique around some searching capabilities that we're testing out, that I'll be glad to hopefully announce if it all pans out the way it is. It has something to do with ChatGPT, I think. So looking forward to that. And happy Assistant Principals Week. If you didn't know, our great principals are hard at work every day, many times behind the scenes. They're not in the limelight, but they are the backbone of that operations in a school to keep things moving. And we just want to take this moment to commend and say thank you to all of our assistant principals, and we celebrate you this week. And that is it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. We have 65 citizens who've filled out public comment cards this evening. Welcome to the Hearing of Citizens segment. This forum allows the community to engage with the school board on matters concerning our education system. Your insights are vital to our educational decisions. As we proceed to this segment, I would like to outline some important expectations to ensure that an orderly and constructive meeting about the business of the board occurs. All speakers should have submitted a completed comment card before this segment. Speakers will be called in the order received. Each speaker will state their full name and shall confine their remarks to the business of the school board. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. A timer will signal when 1 minute remains. Please conclude promptly when the timer ends. Please address your comments to the board, not to the audience. We expect all remarks to be delivered in a manner consistent with school board policy. Abusive language, personal attacks, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Please direct any personal grievances or personnel issues in writing to the school board office. Audience members are requested to listen quietly and respectfully. Outbursts, applause, or other interruptions that disrupt the meeting are not acceptable. Any person that interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting after first being warned that such continued interference will result in removal will be removed. We appreciate your cooperation. Let's begin with our first speaker. School Board Member Enos will be announcing the names.
First up is Robin Williams, followed by Joyce Peralta.
Welcome, Mrs. Williams.
Our workshops seem instructive regarding Ms. Rose and Ms. Ziegler's latest schemes. Ms. Rose seems worried about her unpopular re-election bid. Her solution? Limit public comment that could be embarrassing to her. If Ms. Ziegler and Rose weren't always springing some new horror on the community, most of us wouldn't be here. In previous places I lived, it was a rarity for many residents to show up since elected officials didn't try to upset the apple cart. Rose's plan to limit public comment to 90 minutes, no matter how many speakers, infringes upon our First Amendment rights. Concerns were also raised about signs blocking the audience's view. Really? Or could it be politically embarrassing for them to see lots of people with the same signs on national media who all agree that Ziegler should go, that they shouldn't have approved the crappy CSUSA school, that they shouldn't censor Black history, harm the LGBTQ+ community, nor ban books? With manufactured culture war issues tanking, and with DeSantis' failed presidential bid, the policy-bankrupt Republican Party has one last gasp effort: stroke fear of crime, which actually is down, and fear of immigrants. 2 days after Trump's Hitlerian remarks about opponents as vermin and immigrants as criminals, animals, and poisoning the blood, Ms. Ziegler, in her word salad way, which seems to be the clue she's anxious about introducing some really vile scheme, decided to pull the anti-immigrant card. Maybe she should familiarize herself with the long-standing Supreme Court decision, Plyler versus Doe, that all children, no matter their status, are entitled to the same opportunity to a public education as any other child. Why is Ms. Ziegler doing this right after Trump's Hitler speech? Are the Zieglers now trying to curry favor with Trump? Will Ziegler get her extremist friends to start coming here to complain about money spent educating vulnerable immigrant children? Regardless, the only thing the Republican Party seems to have going is drumming up fear and hate of vulnerable immigrants. Of course, they blocked a bipartisan immigration bill so that they could keep playing the immigration card. I call upon all clergy to speak out against xenophobia. Most faith traditions welcome the stranger. In Judaism, it's our most repeated commandment of the Torah, appearing 36 times. It's also found many times in Christianity and Islam. Had the U.S. not passed the 1921 Anti-Immigrant Act, vastly reducing the number of people who could enter, many of my relatives wouldn't have been murdered by the Nazis. Don't call yourself religious if you don't welcome immigrants. Your religion instructs you to do so. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner.
Thank you,
the
Mrs.
fatherless
Williams.
or the widow.
Joyce Peralta, followed by Lee Rubin.
Welcome.
Good evening. Tonight I present two issues for consideration: public comments and Sarasota school taxes. First, the idea of limiting public comments at school board meetings. We all wish school board meetings did not go on for 5 hours. The reason they do is that the current majority of the board does not listen to us. Every organization has a brand these days. The Sarasota school board brand is hypocrisy, also known as lying. When Ziegler, Enos, and Marinelli were running for the board in 2022, their platform was transparency and listening to the taxpayers. Hypocrites or liars, you be the judge. There is a way to stop 5-hour school board meetings. Get your conservative Christian politics out of our schools. Better spend our school taxes. Speaking of Sarasota school taxes, I care about public schools for the good of the kids in my community, but also because good schools protect the value of my home investment. In 2022, when Sarasota taxpayers were asked to vote to approve additional taxes to keep our A-rated schools, I gladly voted yes, as did a great majority. In 2024, I will be voting no, and I urge others to vote no as well. Why? The absolute waste of my tax dollars, first on removing a successful superintendent and wasteful redistricting. Those two issues wasted about $550,000. Karen Rose is responsible for bringing both of those to the forum. The approval of the Classic Academy of Sarasota, a for-profit Christian school with the profits going to an individual, John Haig. When this school is filled, it will drain $15 million from the Sarasota school system taxes, my tax dollars and yours. The Classical Academy proposal is to spend $350,000 just on custodial help. Is that going to improve reading scores, Karen Rose? You know, the reason you fired Superintendent Asplin, those reading scores? In Florida, parents can already send their kids to private and even Christian private schools and receive an $8,400 check in Sarasota. Now you want to also direct our school tax dollars directly to a private hedge fund? Are you kidding me? Oh yes, I forgot, your brand is hypocrisy. Join me, Sarasota taxpayers, in voting no on additional school taxes until our tax dollars are spent wisely.
Thank you.
Lee Rubin and Christy Carwat.
Good evening. I'm a substitute school teacher in our elementary schools. I want to share a brief story. I was substituting in a class not long ago. I think it was second or third grade. And I was helping put the books back in their bins. And a student teacher in the class told me that she had recently worked with the teacher to catalog 1,028 book titles in that classroom so that a list could be sent to every parent in the class so that they would know what the students were reading. Now, 1,028 books may sound ludicrous to you, but when you think about a second and third grader, the books are very short, they're thin, so it's highly conceivable that this teacher had to spend all her time on that exercise. Fortunately, the state has reversed its ban, and I urge the board to make that reversal clear to educators and parents alike. They need to know that these restrictions have been removed. They need to know that sanity has prevailed. They need to know that we are working on behalf of the students of Sarasota County. In closing, I want to thank the school board for greatly increasing the chances of a Democratic victory in Sarasota this fall. Bridget, Karen, Tim, Robin, and Christian, thank you for uniting us as never before. I'm excited to reelect.
Excuse me, if the audience continues, we will take a break.
I'm excited to reelect Tom Edwards and to elect Liz Barker for the next school term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I apologize for the audience interruption. Please be respectful when we have speakers.
Christy Carwat and Maya Mitchell.
Good evening. My name is Christy Carwat. I'm a former parent and a former teacher in Sarasota County. And before I begin, what I'm going to say is I just want to say how proud I am of that Sarasota High School basketball team. I had 3 of those kids in class last year. Not only are they stellar athletes, they're stellar students, they're hardworking, and when I saw them, I thought I was going to cry because they're just fabulous. That's what we're here for, students, the students. So what I'm here to talk about today is a couple of things. First, I watched the workshop on March 19th, and during that workshop, Mrs. Ziegler, you asked about tracking the status of immigrant students. I was somewhat surprised that you would ask such a question because you've been on the school board for such a long time, and I thought you would already know the answer to that question, or at least you could have Googled it and got it quickly. So I brought you a fact sheet put out by the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education, which answers your question. In short, school personnel cannot ask for a child's citizenship or immigration status. This has been the policy for as long as I have been part of the school district. Mrs. Ziegler, did you really want to know the answer to that question? Or was it just another one of your political moves? Perhaps you were trying to regain the support of those who moved away from you after they learned of your extracurricular activities by once again using innocent children to fire up your base. Second, I want to speak about the board's consideration to limit the time citizens are given to address the board. I know meetings are very long, but have you considered the reason why? I will tell you why. Seems like you should already know the answer, but I'll tell you. Many in this community are unhappy with the board's decisions, at least 4 on the board. If you want shorter meetings, you should consider the concerns of the public and vote accordingly. Many community speakers spend hours researching the issues at hand and provide valuable information which you don't even consider before casting your votes. I will end with a quote I meant to say the last time I spoke. It's from greatschools.org. I'm sharing this because it is apparent by the votes of some members on this board they aren't putting public education first. Great school board members advocate at the local, state, and national level for public education. They take advantage of opportunities to communicate the needs of public schools to other levels of government and advocate for strong public schools. How about this board start doing that? How about this board start fighting for public education, even if those at the state level are not going to do so? After all, that is what you were elected to do. You weren't elected to support private schools through vouchers or private companies through for-profit charter schools. Do your job.
Thank you.
Maya Mitchell, and then Peggy Mormon.
Welcome, Maya Mitchell.
I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to fight to preserve democracy from those in the nation attempting to constitutionalize hate. I want you to say gay, and I want to inspire the inclusion of gay culture in our current curriculum. In our national anthem, it says, "Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free." Freedom of expression, and therefore democracy itself, is under assault. With Don't Say Gay, we are truly violating the most basic concepts regarding our nation's governmental makeup. Freedom requires that diverse populations be as free as any other demographic, to be learned about, studied, understood, and accepted. By turning diversity and inclusion into negative conceptualities, we are causing the true death of freedom, and in turn, the death of true democracy. Freedom is being defied to the detriment of the LGBTQ population in the United States. Books referencing the LGBTQ+ community are still banned from being used to teach. Let's put gay back into the instructional material where it belongs. Let's teach about sexual orientation and gender identity. Daily harm to students' psyches is occurring as children are taught to repress an essential piece of their self-concept. Members of the LGBTQ community are already being challenged and bullied without the state backing their marginalization. The United States Declaration of Independent States, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these should be the right to say who you are, what you represent, and be educated regarding your own history. President Barack Obama stated in his second inaugural address, "Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law. If we can say straight, then we should be able to say gay. Stand up and say gay. Break the distortions. Destroy the stigmatizations and say gay. History has shown that like most groups seeking freedom from repression, sooner or later, we will win. Let's make our government democratic again."
Thank you.
Peggy Mormon, and then Louise Machinist.
Hello, I'm Peggy Mormon. A couple of months ago, I brought each of you a book on reading methodologies, which, could you raise your hand if you looked at it? Just curious. Since you're not curious, please pass your copy along, or you read it over the summer when you have more time, I'm sure. You notice I didn't ask if you'd read it, I asked if you'd looked at it. So if you want to limit public discussion, the first thing you should have done is demand that Bridget Ziegler leave. She's a millstone around your necks. Yes, because of her hypocrisy, but also because of the harm she's already caused the LGBTQ community. If she'd done the right thing and left after you supposedly expelled her from this board, you wouldn't be suffering through all these time-consuming public comments. And only you could have made that happen. But are you suffering? Are you even listening, really? It's not all about Bridget. A lot of it is about the money that you've been wasting, as people have made abundantly clear using statistics that I don't have at my fingertips, and I greatly appreciate those who do. There was a good deal of informed, detailed, respectful public commentary here about the financial and educational risks of approving a for-profit company to run a conservative magnet school. But your vote to approve it looked pretty pro forma to me. It looked pretty thoughtless. If you had been really listening or even interested, the commentary from the people here would have at least given you pause. I didn't see that pause. There was an excellent chance that you could have prevailed over the supposed mandate from Tallahassee, but from the look of things, you barely considered it. I've really tried my best to speak respectfully here, but month after month, you lose our respect. You lose it by wasting tax dollars, tolerating grotesque hypocrisy, including your own. You're not reflecting on your responsibility for this time-consuming protest. We're happy to have been brought together, but to blame us for being here would really be beyond the pale. You're really not listening, and Sarasota schools and taxpayers are going to pay for your inattention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Louise Machinist, and then Lou Grossman.
Welcome, Louise Machinist.
Hi, everybody, back again. About the public comments, I want to say I agree with you. It is terrible, demoralizing, and a time waster listening to community members hour after hour, meeting after meeting, year after year, when there's so much work that needs to be done making an ever better public education system. But as others have already said, the proposed shortening of public comment really misses the point, and the real point is make real change. As a board, stop creating the breathtakingly outrageous problems that everyone has been detailing here. Stop foisting these horrible problems on the education-concerned community. Change course. Support a quality secular public education system that the taxpayers pay for. Respect the cares and care for the needs of all the kids, support the teachers, remove the right-wing extremist politics, stop wasting the tax money, stop embarrassing the community, and, Ms. Ziegler, step down and let us elect your successor in August. And then we won't be compelled to be here time and time again. So I want to say to two of the board members, you really won't probably remember these conversations, but during your campaigns for school board in 2022, when Ultra MAGA was actively disrupting these meetings, I asked Mrs. Martinelli what she would do to stop the circus. She didn't give me an answer. I also asked Mr. Enos at one of your presentations about school safety. We had a conversation. You said that frustrated people should be given the opportunity to express themselves, that the people just need to be heard. Yes, we do. And I heard Mrs. Rose at the Hollow telling the crowd that she, and pretty much she alone, will always have the parents' backs. I will always support you, she said. Well, the parents are here now, and the teachers, the students, the taxpayers who care. We are Sarasota citizens, not outside groups. We actually are the moderate middle. So listen to us. Let us speak and change the course of your board.
Thank you.
Lou Grossman by Layla Newcomb.
Welcome, Lou Grossman.
Thank you, members of the school board, for allowing me to speak, at least for now. I'm a huge fan of the First Amendment. I've always have been. I worked at a local government outside Philadelphia. It's my first job, it's a little bit over 20 years ago. And we had an agreement between Republicans and Democrats, between conservatives and liberals, that every citizen that wanted to speak would speak. They would not be limited. And sometimes this went on for hours. It was necessary. It was the First Amendment. It was necessary. We had a conservative, we had a gentleman who is now a conservative radio commentator. I'm sure you know him, Mark Levin. Mark Levin used to speak for an hour at our meetings. He was a filibuster. We allowed it, okay? You need to let these students speak. You need to let parents speak. You need to let the citizens speak. Unlimited. You need to allow this. You cannot cut off speech. First speech is our right, and first speech is what you should be doing. So I beg you, please, not to limit speech. And I beg you to do the right thing, not the right-wing thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Layla Newcomb, and then Sandra Jimenez.
Welcome, Mrs. Newcomb.
Thank you. So, Leela Newcomb, exhausted grandmother of 3 in Sarasota Public Schools. I come here tonight, as always, to fight for the world that my grandchildren are about to inherit. As of a few weeks ago, one of my grandchildren can now vote, and so can many of her friends. And luckily, they have received their education prior to the attempts to dumb things down. And I can guarantee you that none of them buy the illogical nonsense going around lately, and they recognize out-of-context pseudo-arguments. They're also very tuned into hypocrisy, and they have no trouble saying so, trust me. I understand there's been some discussion about cutting down public comment time, and that's understandable, I guess, but my solution, like everybody else has said, it would be for you folks to quit the distractions one after another since this board took office. I'm not going to list them. Everybody else already did that. But now I hear you want to bring untrained chaplains into our public schools. Then you want to blame the public for taking up your time to address these things. Does anyone see how backward this is? And what a waste of everybody's time and our children's time. The only person up there who I have seen doing anything innovative or even constructive is Mr. Edwards, who, among other things, has successfully instituted several academies in the high schools toward the goal of having every student graduate employed, enrolled, or enlisted. It's great. Otherwise, what I'm seeing is support for the marginalizing of certain segments of our population and for the whitewashing of American history. And now I hear the subject of immigrants is being brought up. And if they're here, they're here. And not only do they deserve an education, but I think it's in our best interest that they get one. So I want to leave you with this. My grandchildren have already experienced friendships across the board, and none of them like hearing about the marginalizing. Now, this is a little treat for everybody from my granddaughter's middle school advanced science class. Aren't they cute? And not one of them cares about skin color or country of origin. Not one of them, trust me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sandra Jimenez, and then Julie London.
Welcome, Sandra Jimenez.
So I guess I don't have to say my name. So I come before you today absolutely repulsed regarding a matter involving the board member, Bridget Ziegler, that had been plaguing our community and our school board for over 6 months. It is a situation that speaks to the importance of integrity, fairness, and compassion. Yet, it is one that has been allowed to fester and escalate without resolution by our school board. As members of this school board, you must address the ongoing harassment
and mistreatment of one of your own colleagues. Bridget has been subjected to relentless attacks and defamation stemming from a deeply personal matter that, while regrettable, should not define her character or her ability to serve. What is perhaps even more repulsing is the school board chairwoman, Ms. Rhodes, legally ineffective resolution, which the rest of the board voted for, demanding her resignation, was nothing more than a publicity stunt that added fuel to the fire of an already volatile situation. Despite repeated pleas for intervention and protection, the rest of our board members have now chosen to turn a blind eye, allowing the harassment to continue unchecked. This is not only a failure of leadership, but also it's a betrayal of the trust placed in all of you by your constituents, and a violation of the principles of decency and respect. Let me be very clear. Harassment and bullying have no place in our community or on our school board. Regardless of one's personal beliefs or opinions, every individual deserves to be treated with dignity, compassion, and fairness. You cannot claim to uphold the values of inclusivity and equity while allowing such behavior to go unchallenged. It is incumbent upon each one of us to stand up against injustice and intolerance, to speak out against harassment in all its forms, and to hold ourselves and each other accountable for creating a safe and supportive environment for our community. To our school board members, I implore you to put aside personal biases and political agendas and to finally do what is right. It is your duty to protect the well-being and dignity of your colleagues and to ensure that they carry out their responsibilities without fear of reprisal or harassment. Anything less is a failure of your moral and ethical obligation as leaders. To Bridget, who has been subjected to this unjust treatment, please know that you are not alone. You have the support and solidarity of your community and all those who stand for decency and justice. We will not rest until this harassment is ended and justice is served.
Julie London
Welcome, Mrs. London.
and Richard Stammer.
First, I want to thank Mr. Dugan for his quote at the March 19th workshop regarding limiting time for public comments. He said, "All should have a meaningful opportunity to participate before voting takes place. It can't be done in 1 minute." When one has board members who say, "I have been out in the community and they told me," I want to remind them that we are the community, and judging by the number of times we get buzzed, 3 minutes isn't even enough time. I do agree with Mr. Edwards and Mr. Enos. Do the agenda public comments first before the votes, and then after the voting, why Bridget Ziegler needs to go. Regarding workforce housing, something is going to have to give with Neil Communities, who has been a huge donor to Bridget's political campaigns. I know with the Sarasota Housing Authority, board members have to disclose any contributions or involvement and then sustain from voting. City Commissioner Arroyo is in trouble for not disclosing his involvement with Ken Thompson Park, and it's all over the place. The optics of Ziegler and Neal goes beyond the pale. So while she should be allowed to participate during these meetings, morally and legally, I believe she can't vote. I was uncertain about what workforce housing would look like, so kudos to Superintendent Connors, who is working on surveys for teachers. With Florida being 47th in the nation in teachers' salaries, Sarasota could offset that with daycare and all that a Vengroff property could offer. They are known for giving a hand up, not a handout, although teachers anywhere should not need low-income housing. That's shameful. I believe Vengroff could make an attractive, beautiful home for those wanting to move to Florida and also be very profitable for the school district. Here's my worry. With the lawsuits Neal Communities has against them by homeowners, if they're chosen and they decide to break even the most ironclad contract with the schools, the legal fees would be substantial. And I can see us waving the white flag like we did with Charter Schools USA. With Vengroff, it's a no fuss, no muss for teachers and staff, because the teachers and staff have enough going on. Yale Communities needs to fix the mess they have going on in Venice and let them keep contributing to political campaigns, but don't let them corrupt the school district with promises they don't appear to keep. I would love to see a prototype as soon as possible to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Stammer and Barbara Olson.
Thank you. I'm a 22-year resident of Sarasota and also a retired professional child welfare worker. I'm also a Unitarian Universalist in Sarasota, and one of my most important beliefs is the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. That includes everyone on the dais, that includes everyone in the audience, that includes all of our children in school, their parents, their teachers, and their support staff. I hold this very dear. I am more concerned about actions of individuals, but I respect all individuals. Having said that, regarding public comment, it is that very respect that must be mutual between both the board and the community. When I look at the diverse audience here and the amount of passion, this is a true representation of Sarasota and what we hold most dear. I know that Ms. Ziegler, Mr. Enos, and Ms. Marinelli have gone on record as promising to expand access to public comment and that they need to make good on that promise. And if you don't want this level of public comment, as others have said, then stop doing all the things that are causing such a community uproar and instead focus on the educational issues that are most dear to us. Finally, I also want to speak, but not less importantly, is the Don't Say Gay bill, or law that we have been functioning under for some time. Harm is being done every day to our students as a result of the Don't Say Gay law. I understand that we're waiting every day for best practices to come down from Tallahassee, but while we're waiting, more harm is being done. You all are capable of taking action now to start undoing that harm and start the healing process. We need the superintendent and the school board to take leadership on this, specifically for eliminating the outing policy, encouraging teachers to uncover their bookshelves and encourage librarians to bring diverse books back into the schools, and to create a comprehensive inclusion policy for the district similar to Hillsborough County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barbara Olson, and then Vicki Neiswander.
Welcome, Barbara Olson.
Hello. To all of you who we elected to serve us, I believe in public education. I'm a product of public education, and I worked in public education. And I thank you for the work we have entrusted you to do on our behalf. I think it's important that we have school board members that walk their talk. I believe Bridget Ziegler has shown us that the lifestyle she purports is not the one she leads. I'm also tired of hearing her disparaging remarks that marginalize and target blacks, brown, queer, and trans students. Let's have an honorable school board. We need to insist that hypocrisy does not take over this room. That is why I still believe Bridget Ziegler, based on her own behavior, resigned from the Sarasota County School Board. And please do not restrict my right to comment publicly at future meetings. Thank you very much.
Vicki Neiswander, and then Shelby Nagel.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Vicki Nicewander. I'm a Sarasota resident, been around here for close to 20 years now. Been involved in local politics, local smart growth issues, lots of issues, particularly around health and safety. Anyway, I listened with interest to your workshop this morning. Your concern for handling public comment appropriately, recognizing your priorities in conjunction with freedom of speech, respect for your constituents, and fiduciary responsibilities is commendable at this point. This is an evolving challenge for other public hearings as well, so you are not alone in this endeavor. One group recently moved to limit time based on the number of speakers presented. Attention to agenda items is critical to achieving goals. As one who has spoken at many public hearings in various settings, it becomes a struggle when I have input on a couple of areas but provided just one opportunity. Please keep this in mind as you look at options. I was pleased to hear from many of you today that you do value the public comments. There is a wealth of caring and knowledgeable parents and public here. As you pay attention to public comments, it is also important and in congruence with your priorities and responsibilities to provide the parents and taxpayers an accounting of the changes to Sarasota schools, students and teachers with the effects of choice and vouchers this year and forward. The financial assessments of the past most likely don't provide a comprehensive account of the changes that have taken place. We deserve to have available online monitoring and at least a yearly report of students in and out of public schools. How long were they gone? Where did they go? How many were homeschooled? What reasons were given? Why they returned? What was their academic assessment before leaving and upon return? An accounting of funds in and out of the public school system with the vouchers provided and their timeliness. Please also include the academic and financial impact of the funding fluctuations in this new voucher environment. Ignoring the accounting of millions of taxpayer dollars spent on this local and statewide experiment is not sound fiduciary practice, let alone it shows no concern for the academics of our children in this parent choice environment. I also hope in your considerations there is attention to not only parent choice, but parent responsibility. This request has been in writing, presented at earlier board meetings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shelby Nagel, and then Patrick Eaton.
Welcome.
Thank you, Board. Hi, all. My name is Shelby Nagel, and I moved to Sarasota to attend New College of Florida a month before the 2022 County School Board election. As I became familiar with the political climate of my new home, I assumed that the turnout at government meetings like this aligned with the legislation that you board members have ushered in. I'm confused. Where's everybody that supports your policy? I don't see them or hear them here. I guess they're only comfortable expressing support for your harmful legislation through the veil of their Facebook and Truth Social accounts. Is that why you want to restrict public comment? Because your supporters aren't showing up for you? Are you tired of hearing the opposition? Hearing the voices of those who disagree with you is part of your job. Public comment is vital to hear before a vote is taken. I do not support the limiting or moving of public comment to the end of the meeting. Go figure that the clowns want to make mimes of us. Leonardo da Vinci said, "Nothing strengthens authority as much as silence." The board should not be trusted with this authority, and we refuse to be silenced. Thank you for your time and your work as public servants. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you.
Patrick Eaton, and then Sonia Howman.
Welcome.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Patrick Eaton, he, him pronouns. I want to address the debate on restricting public opinion first. The citizens of our district deserve to be heard and respected. All people, all opinions, don't step on our First Amendment. Also, not once again target another group, possibly undocumented students. All students deserve a right to education. I volunteer in schools to tutor English to students from other countries through ELL, English Language Learners. Currently, I have 15 students from the Ukraine, Haiti, Vietnam, Cuba, Costa Rica, and Dominican Republic. They're adolescents that deserve an education and help to assimilate in our society as most of our ancestors did. I am also the president of PFLAG chapter of Port Charlotte, a national organization supports parents and family members of friends of LGBTQ students and adults. We provide support, education, and social events. All are welcome. Moving forward with love is my passion. That's what we say. PFLAG, our meetings are very confidential. PFLAG is not political. I found that some individuals in positions of power express homophobic and transphobic actions are in the process of finding out their own sexual identity. As an example from your school board here. Finding yourself is encouraged. Harming others is unacceptable. I'm a very patient man, but I don't have tolerance for racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, and attacking any students.
Sonia Howman, and then Steve Russell.
Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I read an editorial suggesting that people stop speaking out against Bridget Ziegler because she's not going anywhere. And for a second it made sense. I don't care about Mrs. Ziegler's private life, and if she were to resign, our dear governor would probably find an even more reprehensible replacement under one of Florida's apparently innumerable rocks. Yet here I am, sick with MS, because it seems that this board suffers from some form of insidious amnesia, and you need to be reminded of your own history. Remember, Ms. Ziegler, you used your notoriety as a school board member and as a public figure to vilify gay and trans people. Some of them were actually students in your own district. Remember the pain that caused? Well, they do. And you say that 1069 did no harm, that it was misinterpreted. Not reading about their own history or people like them, not being able to talk about their two mothers, or simply the suggestion that they and who they love is too shameful to be spoken out loud. Sounds hateful to me, sounds harmful to me, but don't take my word for it. The students themselves are eager to remind you. They say their well-being and access to education was impaired. And in America, you don't get to decide if your victim has been harmed. And don't forget your little ditty that you won't allow outside organizations with their own agendas to influence policies or guidelines that breed mistrust between families and their child's school. Girl, you should have been a comedian. You've missed your calling. Because you seem to be a walking organization that breeds mistrust between families and their child's school. From Moms for Liberty to Hillsdale to the Leadership Institute, you have bred a whole lot of mistrust. It's kind of your thing. Masks, evil books, charter schools, pronouns, and that thinly veiled classical education seem to translate to do not trust your child to the public education system. And Mrs. Marinelli, I don't care if I'm here till midnight. I'm a night owl. And then not wanting to listen to the people that you are serving. And don't forget, in the short time that I've been attending these meetings, this board has approved a clearly suboptimal proposal for a 4-charter school, despite the outrage from the citizens. And don't forget that you also voted to appoint a former school board member to a finance committee, although he's already a member of the audit committee, and Miss Rose, your campaign treasurer, which would be laughable, if not so disturbingly fraught with conflicts of interest. Y'all never cease to amuse me. So awake from your amnestic coma, folks, never too late to do the right thing. And if not, hey, we're all gonna be here just to remind you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Steve Russell, and then Manny Lopez.
Can Manny Lopez go before me, and I'll be back up in a second? Or give me time to walk her back?
Yes, that's fine. Over there, sir.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me be here. I am Manny Lopez, a 20-year resident of Sarasota County. And as a former teacher,
and a former school board member, I know the value of critical thinking skills needed by students and school boards. That comes from analyzing facts from all diverse points of view. Critical thinking is essential for a strong democracy. Limiting free speech is another assault on our democracy. I understand the concerns of the board is that the length of school board meetings due to the number of speakers. Limiting free speech is the wrong approach in decreasing the length of board meetings. The solution, as you've been hearing, is to pass regulations that reflect the voice of the majority of the people instead of catering to a minority group of tribal extremists like Moms of Liberty and misguided cultural warriors representing the minority of people. It seems like the attempt to reduce free speech is an attack on critical thinking and democracy, and a move to prevent critical thinkers so that people will become sheep to be led by minority extremists for their regressive proposals. Do what is right for the students and the people, and your meetings will be short. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Russell, and then Lisa Schur.
Welcome.
Thank you. Bridget, you claim you won't allow any outside organizations with their own agenda to influence organizations. Excuse me, let me start over. Obviously, she left. She won't allow any outside organizations with their own agenda to influence policies or guidelines that breed mistrust between families and their child's school. She has brought outside influence to bear on this board. She's done so as a co-founder of Moms for Liberty, author of the Don't Say Gay bill, former employee of the Leadership Institute, an advocate for Vermilion education and the Hillsdale College curriculum, and a person who has publicly affiliated herself with hate groups like the Proud Boys. It appears that her hypocrisy knows no limits. It feels like she's punking us. It really does. But her hypocrisy is so transparent, it feels like she must know what she's doing. Is it that she counts on the gullibility of some of her supporters? Or is it that she counts on the hatred of some of her supporters, fueled by her misleading rhetoric and also people like-minded? No student body should be under the auspice of Bridget Ziegler. She should resign. This board recently approved a for-profit charter school, even though there were many valid reasons not to do so. For those board members that voted yes or abstained from voting because you knew it had already passed, I hope that the media has a long memory. I hope they scrutinize you for a couple years to come at least. Will people close to you profit directly from it? Will your real estate magically sell for way over the market value? Will your children or nephews and nieces or grandchildren receive undeserved scholarships? Or will you have lavish vacations paid for by people affiliated with this for-profit charter school? I'm just curious. The voters see you, they know who you are, and they know what you're about.
Thank you.
Lisa Schur, and then David Sellers.
Welcome, Lisa Schur.
I'll wait for Mrs. Ziegler.
You can go ahead and take your
I want
time.
Mrs. Ziegler to be there.
Do you want to go to the next name?
David Sellers.
Sorry, I would need to pass it this time. Thank you.
Wheela Ravorian. It looks like R-A-V-I-D-R-A-N. She's not here either.
They said she had to go.
J.T. Pryor.
Hello, I'm J.T. Pryor. I'm a queer Christian minister serving a queer congregation in Sarasota. I do want to say it is not lost on me that Bridget Ziegler can just get up and leave in the middle of the meeting. While we're doing public commentary, it definitely shows her full support for limiting public comment. But what I really wanted to talk about today was tithing, which is something that we do in the Christian churches very well. It's all about giving your money to the church, and I know that all the air just sucked out of the room whenever I brought it up. But however, it was actually a historical practice, an ancient practice, long before it was ever about money. It was actually about the harvest. And what would happen is they would gather all the crops for the harvest, and then they would leave crops for the alien, for the stranger, for the immigrant. And they wouldn't just leave crops for the immigrant, they would actually leave the very best of what they have. The very best of what they have to remind themselves that they too were once strangers in a land. So, looking at the actions of this board, are we giving the very best of what we have? If we limit public comment, as the board has suggested, and if the board can just get up and leave in the middle of public comment, is that giving the best of what we have? If we limit public comment, and if we call students who aren't English speakers more of a burden than usual, oh look, she joined us. Is that the best of what we have? If we're diverting all this money into charter schools, affecting our most vulnerable students, taking money and jobs away out of the school district, is that giving the best of what we have? So when we focus our efforts in this school board on anything less than the best of what we have to offer to students and to offer to educators, then this is what happens. We get stuck with this circus that's been going on for months now. It's time that we stop the circus. And let's give the best, the very best of what we have to every student and every teacher, not just the ones who look like us, the ones who believe the same way we do, but every student, every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Scher, and then Mary Ann.
My name is Lisa Scher. I'm here today as a citizen of this county. This board is considering limiting the time allotted for public comments. As a nod to their campaign platform of free speech and parental rights, Ziegler, Enos, and Marinelli, also known as ZEM, along with Karen Rose, quickly returned us to the original board policy of 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. Now we find ourselves at a point where this board, which apparently does not like the content or viewpoint of public comments being made over the last few months, is seeking to curb our First Amendment rights. Why, you ask? Many of us have been coming to board meetings since the fall of 2021 when the masking debate erupted. We remember well the Proud Boys, a designated hate group, and the Moms for Liberty, a designated extremist group, and the others of their ilk, threatening board members. You didn't hear that? Yeah, I noticed that. You got selective hearing up there. Threatening board members and audience members who were in favor of a public health policy to mask students. We remember these people purposely spitting and coughing on other people. I don't recall Karen Rose or Bridget Ziegler ever seeking to limit public comment or action at that time. And to be clear, I support their rights to speak publicly. I don't support their rights to spit on people. It was First Amendment all the way, no holds barred. Yes, these are the same Proud Boys and their ladies auxiliary that campaigned for Zem and who showed up at their victory party. We have the photos for that. The same folks that Karen Rose and the Zem team spent time with at events sponsored at the Hollow. Robin Marinelli even accepted a fundraiser sponsored by the head of the Proud Boys until she was finally shamed into backing away from the event. And then the Proud Boys, Moms for Liberty, and their like-minded compatriots disappeared from board meetings. Lots of Proud Boys went to jail, thank God. Moms for Liberty were on the ropes with their various scandals, including Mrs. Ziegler, who they now disavow. And the support for Zem and Rose at board meetings likewise disappeared. Contrary to the nonsense comments made by certain board members, it is this community and not outside groups that are showing up at meetings to try to stop the destruction of public education, slice by slice. We've turned up to talk about the destruction of public education, dealing with teacher morale and poor pay, firing Superintendent Asplin, the unqualified Vermillion education, redistricting, the continued destruction of mega hypocrite Ziegler, and putting Karen Rose's campaign treasurer, the Prince of Dark Money, onto multiple school board committees. Apparently, this board majority has grown weary of the community speaking in opposition to poor governance and playing politics. So they're now seeking to limit our public comment time. You may be successful, but the public knows why this is being done, and they'll remember in August.
Thank you.
Marianne, if you say your name, I see you every time.
Welcome.
It's DeQuino Turl. It's really easy. It's pronounced exactly the way it's written.
Your last name isn't on here, ma'am, your second part of it, but either which way, I appreciate that. I will make
Okay,
note.
It's really easy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I need to share with you how appalled I am at the idea that you would take one of our precious minutes from our 3-minute allotment away, that you're contemplating it is egregious. But you are the hypocrisy board, so here we are. I am sick of all of you. I can't wait to vote every single one of you off the dais because you are an embarrassment to Sarasota. You are an embarrassment to show to our children. I'm a grandparent of students, and you are absolutely nobody I would ever hold up as an example to anybody that I loved. I have nothing else to say to you because you really need to stop the circus. And Bridget, the smirk, you can take that with you when you go.
Thank you.
So next is.
Oh, sweet.
Next is.
You don't ever reprimand your folks when they speak out of turn.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. We will be back at 7:20.
We're the minutia of Sarasota. I can't wait to see it. Yeah.
Where are you from?
We're from Denver. Yeah. Yeah. This is my home. So we got Florida guys, and then we're all.
Just want to say, hey, Coach Nick.
We're here for this one. No fights already.
Thank you for all your years as SRO. You're doing a great job.
Mr. Enos,
One of the things that when folks take a long time.
can you, Chief Lorenz, could ask let Mr. Enos know we're starting?
Where are you from? How long have you been in Sarasota?
Thank you, Mr. Enos. If you'd like to call the next speaker.
Maya, I apologize again from some of the reading. It's Maya Cranford, Maya Cranford, and then followed by Sophia Brown.
Welcome.
Good evening to the members of the school board. My name is Maya Crawford, and I am a sophomore at Suncoast Polytechnical High School. This is the first school board meeting I have attended, and it is ironic to me that public comment is being limited. It feels that this decision is trying to prevent discussion of problems that the people of Sarasota have with the school board. I want to remind you of the pledge made at the beginning of this meeting that states liberty and justice for all. It is unjust to limit time from the citizens who want you to hear them and act for them. Cutting time from concerned students, parents, teachers, and citizens of Sarasota will not stop you from hearing us. It would only urge us to speak louder. Public comment is something that is important to both you, the members of the school board, and the people of Sarasota. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sophia Brown, followed by Rana Bazzini.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sophia Brown, speaking on behalf of PEN America Florida. PEN America is a national nonprofit that sits at the intersection of literature and human rights, and PEN America Florida is dedicated to protecting Floridians' right to free expression and combating censorship in this state. I'm also a product of the Florida public education system and a graduate of the New College of Florida. Florida has been a breeding ground for legislative efforts that restrict teaching or talking about race, gender, American history, and LGBTQ+ identities in public schools. The Don't Say Gay law has been a prime example of this, forcing Florida students and educators back into the closet, denying them community and visibility, and sending the message that certain types of people don't have a place in our schools. Bridget Ziegler, who championed this law, has claimed that it isn't as harmful as it has been made out to be. But it's hard to take this claim seriously from someone who has, in the past, permitted targeted anti-LGBTQ+ attacks against board members at these meetings. Last month's historic court settlement against the Don't Say Gay law shows that the censorial and hateful rhetoric is unpopular, isolating, disrespectful, and that Florida is desperate for more clarity as the law has been over-applied time and time again. It is in this board's best interest to respect the fundamental First Amendment rights of its constituents and to take steps to inform Sarasota County educators about this settlement and walk back the harm the Don't Say Gay law has caused, because students are well aware that they deserve better, and we are not even close to giving up the fight. Thank you for listening. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you.
Rana Bazzini, and then Jeffrey Halprin.
Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening. Ooh.
I sort of hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It takes a lot to make this 91-year-old heart sing. Maybe it's not singing, maybe it's humming. But our motto is every student, every day. Several months ago, a group of young people were coming to the meetings and they were speaking. And they spoke about the harm being done to students who were not being recognized for who they are. Some were being bullied and some were afraid to attend class. I'm happy to say, perhaps maybe not on our school board, but their voices were being heard. I think the recent decision of a court regarding the Don't Say Gay law appeals to the fact that their voices were being heard. And I think the pendulum is turning the other way. And in order to assure that that pendulum keeps going, please pay attention to the school board election that will be coming in August. Do your research, vote, and remember the decision is August, don't wait till November. But speaking of the November, we have a wonderful, wonderful school teacher in our community who is running for state representative in District 37. Please support him. He's a marvelous candidate. And even if you're not in his district, you can still support him philosophically and financially. Again, thank you for letting us speak. And as I said, let's hope the pendulum keeps turning in the other direction.
Jeffrey Halperin and Wendy Rosen.
I'm Jeff Halperin. Thank you for letting me speak. Ms. Rose, you began this segment of the meeting by stating that public input is vital to decisions of the board. I think that's just another untruth that comes out from your mouth and from many members of the board. I don't know if it's that you don't hear us, you don't listen, or you just don't care. But clearly, the public input is not affecting your decisions in any way. If you want to shorten these meetings, which clearly it seems like you guys want to do, the way to do it is to start listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Rosen, and then Jules Rainey.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Wendy Rosen. And you know, I was born and raised in Florida, and things never change. Every time I come here, I feel like I'm watching a scene out of the movie Coconuts by the Marx Brothers. Florida stays the same. But let's get serious. Half of our young families in this county live on less than $50,000 a year. And politicians often ask us, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? What I remember about 4 years ago is all the help wanted signs and the restaurants that were closed 3 days a week. Local shops and restaurants couldn't keep, they were struggling because of lack of staff. New immigrants are needed desperately in our area, and it's our job to welcome them, to educate their children, and to help them become good citizens. Let's follow the lead of many other states who provide free, healthy lunches to every student. If we don't waste money on all those things everybody's been talking about, we'd have enough to do it. Mrs. Ziegler and Mrs. Rose, you are not creating a safe and healthy school system. Bridget Ziegler, as board chair, you allowed hate-filled speech by speakers at this dais to defame your fellow board member, Tom Edwards. In doing so, you gave power to the Proud Boys who publicly supported your campaign. And Mrs. Rose, as chair of this board, you have heard dozens of residents pose simple questions. And in all of my times coming here, I have never heard that anyone got a reply. Some residents even turn up month after month to repeat a simple question. You have consistently ignored each and every question posed at these meetings. Mrs. Rose, you are ignoring both fairness and accountability. It's time to put an end to the politics and put our children first. Our town is known as a circus town, and we do have our share of clowns, especially in politics. But I hope we are also an inspiration to others in other communities who are fighting to save their schools and hospitals against extremist politics, corruption, and fascism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Rainey, and then Serena Canarelli.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jules Rain. I'm a mother and a former high school social studies teacher. 2 weeks ago, a historic settlement was reached that largely negated the most harmful aspects of the Don't Say Gay law, which was so poorly written and loosely defined that it took a Florida Supreme Court decision to finally clarify the scope and limitations of the law and its impact on Florida schools. Students and teachers are finally now able to have diverse books containing LGBTQ characters in school classrooms and libraries, be out publicly, have GSA clubs, and display safe space stickers and pride flags. I'm asking the superintendent and school board to take leadership on this issue by making a public statement which provides full transparency on what past guidelines have been issued to teachers and librarians and what materials they've been asked to remove from their classrooms. What materials have media center specialists been required to pull? What were teachers told to pull from their classroom libraries? We don't know because it's never been made public. Since this settlement, the Don't Say Gay law has been largely irrelevant, but the school board has been publicly silent on this issue and the effects of the settlement on Sarasota County schools. As constitutional officers, I'm asking this school board to make a statement that publicly acknowledges the scope and limitations of the Don't Say Gay law, and that reflects the recent settlement and acknowledges the rights of teachers and students to speak about LGBTQ subjects in their classrooms, presentations, libraries, clubs, and organizations. I want you to publicly encourage teachers and librarians to uncover their bookshelves and have them bring diverse content back into schools and remind them that they are allowed to have books, media, and classroom materials which are about LGBTQ topics. Let the public know when you've distributed these guidelines to Sarasota school administrators and faculty. Lastly, I want you to restore the guidelines of Sarasota County schools to what they were in 2018 by recognizing transgender and non-binary students' rights to use the pronouns they identify with and eliminate the nickname form, which forces students to get a parent's written permission to use a different name in school or use different pronouns. This form effectively requires transgender students who want to use a new name to be forcibly outed at home, which could put their safety at risk if they have unaffirming parents. I'm also very concerned about the recent conversations regarding limiting public comments. We're all here to speak on issues of importance to the school board, and we feel it's important that you listen to your constituents on these matters. Members, you have all, at one time or another, affirmed the importance of public comments to the school board. However, some of you have recently suggested limiting the time for public comments. I oppose any action that restricts public comments or impedes the influence the community may have on the decisions of the school board. We need leadership which listens to the community's concerns and implements effective, nonpartisan solutions to address them, not restrictive censorship.
Thank you.
Serena Canarelli, and then Sebastian Martinez.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Serena Canarelli. I'm here to express my First Amendment rights of free speech. Now, I wouldn't have to be here if you guys were doing a better job, but obviously you're not. I'm a grandmother pushing 80, and I'm a firm believer in public education. And I want to say that having lived here for full-time for several years, I started paying attention when Governor DeSantis started making Florida the epicenter of his culture wars and adopted one of the Christian nationalist agendas, eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion. And most of you on this board have carried that out. Not all of you. I'm here to support the teachers and students of Sarasota County that have been harmed by this school board, save for Tom Edwards. I have the privilege of knowing many of the students from C, Social Equity Through Education. I am so proud that they won in Tallahassee. I don't think they're finished yet. The school board has made a political weapon of DEI. All the attention given to parents. What about student rights? Isn't that what you should be focused on? Shame on you. Except for Tom Edwards, most of you, I'm hoping, will lose your positions when your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sebastian Martinez, and then Connie Bruni.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Sebastian Martinez, and I'm a graduated student of Booker High School. And today I wanted to speak on Karen Rose's continuous assault on our First Amendment rights and share a message with any immigrant families or ESOL families who will watch this later. I really wish that there wasn't always something. I wish that this could just be a Tuesday and I could be resting at home, take my day off. But it's always something. Be it Rose firing the superintendent for no reason, sneaking in 3-month-old Vermilion education, wasting taxpayer dollars to redistrict for worse maps than we already had, cutting off speakers, or now potentially limiting public comment. Miss Rose, in your introduction, you say our input is invaluable, but you don't believe that. You believe public comment is worthless, not invaluable. You and Robin say you want to focus on the business of the board. But every time that there has been a large community turnout, it's always been the business of the board. Superintendent Asplin's firing was the business of the board. Vermilion was the business of the board. Redistricting was the business of the board. And now potentially limiting public comment will be the business of the board. All of which were motioned or supported by Ms. Rose. All the business of the board. Ms. Rose, this is why I know that your retirement campaign is a joke. It's why everybody in the community needs to know your facade is a joke. You say you're data-driven, but wanted statistically worse maps for redistricting. Have you begun to analyze data on how many hungry students and impoverished families you could have helped or fed with your rampant spending spree, burning through hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars? You say you believe in accountability, but you don't care about the community, teachers, students, or public comment. Your campaign and false principles are a joke. Period. I know you haven't reached a decision on it yet, but I urge you to understand that not a second of public comment should be taken off. You're school board members, elected officials, but before that, you are public servants. If any changes should be made, you should be making public comment even more accessible, so more students and more teachers can have their voices heard, so you can hear directly from those affected by your decisions. But again, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. And next to any immigrant or ESOL families watching, Las familias de ISO son una de las familias más ignoradas en nuestro distrito. Nuestras escuelas tienen que ser mejor en comunicarse con ustedes sobre los programas, oportunidades y trabajos que nuestro condado ofrece. Ningún estudiante, ninguna familia debería ser ignorado, y necesitamos tu voz en esas reuniones. Pero también tienen que saber, si eres una familia inmigrante hispano que vino a este país buscando una mejor vida para tus hijos, tienes que saber que eres el próximo víctima de políticos como Bridget Ziegler y comunistas como Karen Rose.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Connie Bruni, and then Michelle Posey.
Welcome.
Thank you.
My apologies for missing your March 19th workshop. I was out of town. I commend the school board for considering all needs when considering a change to public comment. Obviously, it's a very touchy subject, and I understand that because it's our First Amendment right, so it has to be done very thoughtfully. It is funny for me, absolutely hilarious, frankly, for me to sit and listen to the very people who 2 years ago begged this board to muzzle and then mask our children. Jane, Shirley, and Mr. Edwards voted, in my opinion, illegally, that is my opinion, to do exactly that, and then moved public comment not anywhere in the agenda. Public comment actually occurred after adjournment. It was not even a part of the legal meeting. That's a serious breach, in my opinion, that was restored by this board, and I thank you for doing that. So it's odd to hear the opposite. It's like, am I living in an alternate universe? What in the world? This is the truth. It is. So I just want to say that. I know you're looking at different ones. Personally, I liked number 4. What's funny, again, is that it's possible under a couple of these potential opportunities that folks would get not once but twice to speak. They get more time, not less. Not less. So what the heck are we really talking about here? So the other thing had to do with this bill. I've heard so much about it tonight. So I pulled up a press release from our governor's office. I'm sorry, I don't think it's funny. He was elected with over 60%, and I happen to like him. So I'll just read something about this bill. This is a press release from the governor's office, not my words. Frequently carrying the water for activists, the media wrote countless stories lying about the intent, design, and application of the law. Activists carried those same lies into the courtroom, and maybe this boardroom, thankfully to no avail. Their judicial activism has failed. Failed. Today's mutually agreed settlement ensures that the law will remain in effect, and it is expected that the case will be dismissed by the court immediately. Very different than what we've been hearing at this podium. So I just wanted to point that out for those in the audience and for you as you're being challenged to do something. Keep everything in mind. Sometimes things being represented are not as they appear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Posey, and then India Miller.
Welcome, Mrs. Posey.
Thank you. Michelle Posey. Nothing says stop the circus like literally being a part of the circus. I came here for the first time in, 4 months? Popped out my cell phone to record what was happening during the recess, only to be accosted by somebody and having to now press charges. There's your diversity, equity, inclusion, people. There's your love and not hate. You're the circus. You don't want the circus? Maybe stay home. It has been hard to watch the proceedings happening here, mostly because, honestly, guys, your supporters find it hard to back you and make excuses for some of the behavior you've exhibited. I was told that personal lives would not be addressed here from the podium. So imagine my shock and dismay when a board member's sex life turned up as an agenda item. I was told, guys, all we needed was a conservative majority, which we delivered in 2022, only to watch our new board get intoxicated with ARP funds and roll in a PBIS model that is not effective. Imagine meeting for months with board members so they can appropriately understand why the mental health industrial complex and CASTLE, the accreditation for transformative cell, were dangerous and proven to fail in states like California, only to find out that the majority of our new board were ineffective and spineless to make the necessary moves to protect the well-being of our children today, not after a presidential race or when it's convenient for you. You guys had a remove Bridget Ziegler resolution. Where's my CASTLE resolution that I asked you for almost a year ago? Follow that up with this new declaration that somehow Mr. Edwards is a self-proclaimed moderate, and I can no longer stand aside while this ringleader delivers a circus at the expense of carrying on school business. What we need to understand is that Mr. Edwards felt for years that Trump supporters, and let's face it, there's a lot of them in this district, that Trump supporters were Nazis and white supremacists. He even posted a picture of a grown man in a pair of white underwear with a stain on the back of the white underwear and pointed an arrow and said, those are Trump supporters. Good luck getting elected in this county, buddy. Actually, he posted that picture, and he also cost our district $47,000 for his illegal mask mate. You remember when he tied masks to the faces of the children that are not his and basically violated parental rights throughout our entire county. He also bragged at a Democratic Party event that he's building coalitions to work from the inside, which is why we needed you guys to step up and be a strong conservative board to neutralize the toxicity that Mr. Edwards brings with him for the district. The circus that has been following Mr. Edwards to this boardroom is seeking to destroy our district and make gender ideology and wokeisms mainstream. In 2024, send Mr. Edwards and his loving traveling circus of disruptors on the road and bring back serious business to the boardroom. Our children deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
India Miller, and then Alex Lieberman.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm India Miller, and I want to start off by saying Superintendent, you really truly have like my prayers and wishes for everything because this is a lot. There is a Turkish proverb that goes, when a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become a king. The palace instead becomes a circus. I think that's really apropos for where we're at. By design, we have no king in this country. By design, we have no king or queen, as may be the case, on our school board. We won't be silenced by public servants. Charlie, who approached me out in the town this weekend because he'd heard me speak at the school board and was motivated and moved by what I'd shared, just texted me that he came here and he sadly left because all the seats were full. I feel like we could have more seats, but you effectively silenced one voice. A mom contacted me this week because her 15-year-old daughter won't go to school anymore and is going to pursue a GED because she can't use the women's bathroom. Because of the hate and shame Bridget Ziegler's bullying of trans women and hateful legislation has introduced nationwide via her Moms for Liberty, this poor innocent child has left her house twice in 7 weeks. This is a real child in Florida schools. They wouldn't come speak here because Bridget sits right there, triggering and traumatizing to any of us that are LGBTQ people, especially the trans community, and students by just being here. She's still allowed to have a vote on school policies. She's smug and pretending trans kids don't die because of this hatred. So other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? We're really expected to focus on agenda items or pretend things are okay when this person who wears a real women aren't men t-shirt is still there making decisions. Karen Rose, I'm calling on you to immediately request Governor DeSantis remove Bridget from this board, to immediately issue guidance on the transphobic policies she inspired and implemented. How many taxpayer dollars are going to be spent on this nonsense to turn it over and prove time and time again that it's illegal, unconstitutional, unjust, and just mean-spirited? Bullying starts here in this very room, in this very audience, because you endorse bullying. Enough is enough. I've seen board members out in the public here with school students that I've personally been bullied by. I would define that as grooming, when a grown adult has an agenda to hang out with an underage person and try to influence them. It's just wrong. You guys are wrong. This is my 6th month here asking to not have to face a prison sentence or humiliation by going to the restroom.
Thank you.
Get a crayon from an elementary
Thank
school
you.
and change the...
Alex Lieberman, and then Carol Lerner. Alex Lieberman. Carol Lerner's up, and then followed by Beck Lane.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I actually decided to go off script because everything has been said that I was going to say about the public commentary situation. So I thought I would give, from my perspective, a bit of a history of how I've seen public commentary over the past 8 years. I moved here to Sarasota over 8 years ago, and at that point, I really wasn't paying too much attention to the school board. I liked what I heard about the school district. It seemed very interesting. I didn't like what I was hearing coming out of Tallahassee. That super concerned me. In 2016, then an interesting development happened, which very much caught my attention. Still hadn't attended any school board meetings at that point. But there was a big issue here in the school board over transgender bathrooms concerning a Pineview student. There were student demonstrations, kind of like a takeover. I remember reading in the newspaper. And I attended a rally at 5 Points in support of a student who was very much a transgendered student who was very much demanding the use of a bathroom. The person who revved this up, interestingly, was Bridget Ziegler, of course, on the side against rights for transgender students. In 2017, I actually decided to start attending school board meetings along with Rhonda Bazzini, who was very much honored recently here. We actually decided to set up an organization called Protect Our Public Schools. Again, more concerned about Tallahassee and more concerned about what it might do to the really good Sarasota schools. But we started attending school board meetings, and I must say, they were very boring. Sometimes we were about the only people in the audience. Sometimes there was nobody spoke at public commentary. The school board was going about the business of the school board. Then in 2018, there was a challenge. And even worse than Charter Schools USA, Academica, the largest for-profit management company, tried to come to Sarasota. And we put in a lot of work and actually swung 4-1. Bridget Ziegler, the only person, of course, voting to support the application. And Academica did not challenge it, and we still have no Academicas. 2019, things were kind of boring again, and then 2020 hit, and everybody knows what 2020 was about. First, the pandemic, then George Floyd, and then President Trump on January.
Thank you.
Well, next time I'll tell the rest of the story because it gets interesting.
Thank you.
Beck Lane, then Coach Nicholas.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. So I was originally going to come here and talk about the chaos you've created. Again, the four of you, by the way, have created. I was going to talk about the circus atmosphere. Bridget brought to us your white nationalist supporters, your right-wing extremists, and I'm glad you find it fun, Bridget. But really, honestly, I don't have to. I can't begin to top any of the previous speakers.
Please address the board.
But I will say, Bridget, Karen, Robin, Tim, you've acted as if you would never lose your grip on opinions and power. Your smug arrogance really is no longer appreciated. I want you to take a good look around you. Take a good look in the crowd. Take note, you've seen it especially tonight, the tide is turning.
Thank you.
Coach Nicholas, and then August Ray.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, school board. My name's Con Nicholas. I was at Cardinal Mooney for 5 years teaching English and coaching football and baseball. At Riverview for 34 years, teaching English, special ed, and also football and baseball. And now I'm a proud member of the Sea Alliance, many of whom are here tonight. Mrs. Ziegler, I see you're still here, and that means we're all still here. We're not some flash-in-the-pan group which will disappear or lose interest in our mission. And our mission is to please convince you to step down from the Sarasota County School Board. I've stated before that no one in the Sea organization judges you for your private behavior that sparked all this controversy and hoopla. We're seeking your resignation because your behavior was the definition of hypocrisy. We also seek your resignation for the previously mentioned wearing of an anti-LGBTQ t-shirt, posting it on social media. You remember the real women aren't men with your shades on, pointing at it. That insensitive and judgmental post directly mocked transgender students in our school district. And we support all the kids in our school district. These LGBTQ students are our kids, and anyone who attacks them is not fit to serve on the Sarasota County School Board. And we're going to defend these students when they're targeted every time by people like you. Also, Bridget, with all due respect, you don't really care about Sarasota County schools. Your concern is a political agenda. You were appointed by Governor Rick Scott, not elected, and you and your Moms for Liberty friends and Mike Flynn and your intolerant, homophobic right-wing movement are in this for political reasons, not to help Sarasota County schools or their students. Another point, Florida is at the forefront of the book banning policies that you support. Bridget, if you and your MAGA supporters don't like a book, don't read it. If you don't want your child to read that book, don't let them read it. That's your parental right. But don't tell other parents what their kids can and cannot read. That's not a parental right. That's fascism. Finally, we, all these people here tonight, are here because we sent our children to Sarasota County Public Schools. I sent my kids to Wilkinson, Brookside, and Riverview, and they currently send their kids to our public schools. Or they're students at Sarasota County Public Schools.
Thank you.
August Ray, and then Mary Holmes.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is August Ray, and I'm a senior at Sarasota High School. Last meeting, I spoke about my experience with bullying due to being openly queer at school. The day after that meeting, I was called in the office to file an incident report regarding the bullying from the previous year. At first, I was hesitant to fill out any reports, as the last thing I wanted was a rehash of last year and the trauma that came with it. I'd moved on, and I'd preferred to get through this year without any commotion. But I was repeatedly told that Sarasota County has a zero-tolerance policy for bullying, and that filing a report is the best course of action for me and for other students. If Sarasota has a zero-tolerance bullying policy, if we refuse to tolerate hateful rhetoric or discriminatory behavior from students, why do we put up with that same behavior from our elected officials? Why do we tolerate bullying in the walls of our boardroom, but not in the halls of our classrooms? The only difference between the bullies who made my life hell last year and the bullies who sit on our board, Karen, Bridget, is the position they have, the political position, and your age. Only difference. If we truly have a zero-tolerance policy for bullying, then why are you guys still here? Why are you guys still here? Like, genuinely, please, why? I want to know.
Thank you.
Mary Holmes, and then Jenna Holmes.
Welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent Connor and board members. My name is Mary Holmes, and I'm a veteran 34-year ESE teacher. I'm here to discuss what I consider to be the most egregious of all the recent actions of the board. The audacity of even considering decreasing the length of time permitted for input from the public. Seriously? There's a simple cause and effect relationship here. The more outrageously members of the board act out, the more consistent and passionately we, your constituents, will show up, speak out, and demand accountability. Prior to the pandemic, board meetings typically lasted about 1.5 to 2 hours. Simple and fairly boring. It was great. Then came the global pandemic, issues of school closing, virtual education, issues of the health and safety of students and staff were paramount. Mommies for Liberty began their idiotic campaign about the issue of masking and the scary non-issue about parental rights. Board meetings understandably became longer, about 2.5 to 3 hours. We continued to show up and speak out. Between June 14th and November 25th, 2023, board members averaged around 21 speakers with a little more than an hour public comment. Common sense tells us that something very dramatic must have occurred to change these statistics. Yes, the dramatic change was that of our very own Bridget Ziegler being publicly exposed. After years of holding herself up as the epitome of the conservative, Christian, valued mom, and years spent demonizing and humiliating students and even employees in the LGBTQ community, she was exposed to being completely hypocritical and dishonest, living a double life, complete with having a sexual threesome. We don't care about that. She caused our school district to become the subject of ridicule.
If you want to be able to continue, you are not going to go into the intimate details of any individual board member or otherwise.
Nearly 51 speakers, making public comments last an average of 2.53 hours. And you want to limit our free speech to express outrage and concern? Seriously? During the past couple of months, the board has recently continued to act out, most recently by bringing Eric Robinson back into the fold in what is, at the very least, very murky waters and a conflict of interest for you, Karen, by being your campaign manager. Seriously, we have a lot to say, and we will not tolerate having our freedom of speech limited. You've got a gallery full of concerned citizens, parents, teachers, students, and community leaders who have a great deal to say about the hypocritical, deceptive, and self-serving actions of the school board. You want shorter meetings? It's simple. Knock it off. Seriously.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jenna Holmes, and then Jean Libet.
Welcome.
Hello, my name is Jenna Holmes, and I'm an alumni of the Sarasota County School System. I come here after a 9-hour workday to express my concern for the lack of concern the school board is intending to show to those who speak at public comments. The idea of cutting back time on public comments from the already slim 3 minutes granted is disrespectful to the community and downright absurd. You are here to serve us and not the other way around. Is free speech only convenient for the board when people are speaking in your favor? That doesn't sound like democracy to me. To say I'm a big fan of logic would be an understatement. I learned early on that cause and effect is directly correlated to logic. Newton's third law: for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That being concerned citizens speaking out and demanding accountability and justice. This town has gained national attention for all the wrong reasons. I mean, my ego would be bruised too if I was exposed as a national hypocrite. But just because the school board doesn't like what the public is talking about doesn't give you any right to try and change the narrative by shutting down our right to free speech. As a former student and now parent with a child entering the school system next year, I care enough about our schools to sit through hours of speakers just to get my 3 minutes in to express my concerns to my community and peers. Even if you do cut back on our time, do not expect us to be any less quiet. There are many ways to express dissent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Libet. Libit. Okay. Next is Mary Lynn McKeon. Mary Lynn McKeon. McKeon. Okay. Maya Crawford. We have 2 cards. Hannah Silva. And then on deck will be Jorney Smith.
Welcome to the podium.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Hannah Silva, and I'm a senior at Suncoast Polytechnical High School. Every week, I think it can't get any worse, and yet every week, I am proven wrong. Bridget, even though she is not here currently, for you to say that it's becoming a burden to educate immigrant youth is quite frankly appalling and disgusting. As the daughter of immigrants, I know firsthand just how hard these families work to provide their children with opportunities. These families come to Sarasota because they understand the educational advantages this county has. They know it is a stepping stone in ensuring that their child will have a brighter future than they did. But for her, someone who represents the students of this county, to call into question the worth of providing these students educational opportunities is cruel and tone deaf to me. She is absolutely not fit to serve by any means to represent anyone but herself and her self-interest. The real burden isn't immigrant students seeking better education. It's the taking tax dollars away from our schools to allow further privatization in our school system. And I know having these conversations are difficult. And I don't want to be the one having them. But if I have any hope that any of you will fix our issues, limiting public comment will only push these issues under the rug. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jorney Smith? Sarah Parker?
I would also like to wait till Bridget's here.
Shannon Fortner?
I would also like to wait.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. We will return at 8:15. Could please be seated. Mr. Enos will call the next speaker. Yes.
Okay, we'll get started again. Journey Smith, and then Sarah Parker.
Hi, my name is Journey Smith. I'm with Voices of Florida's youth chapter, and I am a student of Sarasota High School. I'd first and foremost like to convey my sympathy for Ms. Ziegler. I know you've been under a lot of scrutiny lately for your personal life. People have been coming to these meetings and speaking about your romantic partners and family life as if it holds any relevance at all to how qualified you are to do your job. It absolutely does not. I am sorry that you have had to experience that. I'm sorry that you have had to experience what my family has been experiencing for years. I understand what it feels like because my mom is gay and I have gay siblings. And for too long, the rhetoric you have been pushing has made me and my family feel unwanted and unwelcome in Sarasota public school system. It would be easy to take jabs at you. It would be easy to call you a hypocrite. But I would rather extend empathy because I know how it feels. And right now, I may have the power to make you feel a little better, a little more accepted. And I would rather use my power to bridge that gap to understanding. You also have power, Ms. Ziegler, both on the school board and in your political life. I'm asking that you please use the power for empathy as well. You have the power to change the conversation about queer families here in Sarasota. You have the power to help them feel more accepted in public schools. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Parker, and then Shannon Fortner.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Parker, and usually I come up here and I want to, flip over the table. Today, I'm going to say sometimes I get disappointed in my own community because just like Journey said, I don't care what you did in your bedroom. I do not care. I think it is misogynistic for a woman to fall because of her husband's actions. And if that was my partner, I would be livid because that is not my actions. However, there are a ton more things that me and you both know that you've done, and I cannot agree with. But I refuse to participate in misogyny and patriarchy. I am very upset because I go to Tallahassee all the time to fight for every last person in this room. And to come home and to see this, and every last one of you on the school board are responsible for this. You're dividing the community for political points. If you guys pulled together and actually started focusing on the children, we wouldn't have this. I wouldn't be disappointed. There would not almost be throwing hands between suburban wives, okay? And that's problematic for me. And as being one of the only black activists in here, one of the only black mothers in here, I refuse that black and brown and indigenous people and children be talking points. I hope that some of the people that are in this room on both sides go to Tallahassee next time and actually use their words and actually create change. I hope that every last one of you go home and really metabolize the mess that you all have created. You are adults, as is everyone else in this room. I tutor children, and so does my youth chapter, every week. There are black children, when I asked them what the Underground Railroad was, they had no idea. These are from 4 to 12 years old. When I asked them about Harriet Tubman, they had no idea. I was gonna start them on Stokely Carmichael and get them real organized. And unfortunately, I had to go all the way back. That is your responsibility. Furthermore, today, I had to call the school board. You know why? Because my son has a cochlear device. $30,000 that cochlear device cost. I lit into the transportation, I lit into the school board, I was angry. You know, the $500,000 plus that I heard that was used for redistricting while I was up and gone in Tallahassee, there should be more bus aids on the buses for special needs children, unless y'all try to cut a $30,000 check, and I highly doubt y'all are. Y'all, we deserve better. And the room needs to act better, and that goes for both sides. And limiting public speech and the First Amendment, I don't care if you're conservative, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, yellow, you're gonna vote for RFK Jr., I do not care. You are allowed to come up here and speak, and y'all need to learn to listen. Take a moment. If you don't vote like we vote, we'll just come back up. The biggest thing is that if you cut that time, you're going to see a lot more of me. And I'm not going to come up here in the calm way that I'm coming up here right now, because y'all have seen me stomp out this room and get kicked out. There are direct actions that people can do. You have a choice right now. You want to roll the dice, roll the dice. But what I'm going to say is that all of y'all, just like I heard even the conservatives say, y'all failed. All parents, including conservatives and including leftists.
Shannon Fortner. And then Julie Forstier.
Welcome.
Good evening to the members of the school board. My name is Shannon Fortner. My pronouns are they, them. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address the board today. I stand before you today with deep concern for the well-being of our youth in Sarasota County. It pains me to witness the erosion of the supportive environment that once characterized our school system. The recent decision to strip away avenues of communication and support from our students in the name of personal gain and glory is deeply troubling. It is disheartening to see the focus shift from nurturing and uplifting our youth to fostering a culture of competition and alienation. I recall a time when the paramount concern was ensuring that every student felt safe and heard within the school community. It was about providing a platform for open dialogue and support, especially for those facing challenges at home, bullying or struggling with mental health issues. It appears that in recent times, there has been a concerted effort to stifle community feedback and marginalize the voices of concerned citizens. Many of these present here today may not have children currently enrolled in our schools, but their presence signifies a collective commitment to the well-being of our community's youth. We cannot ignore the fact that this decision reflects a concerning pattern of prioritizing personal agendas over the needs of our students. It is imperative to remember that the true stakeholders in this matter are not the individuals up here, but rather the students whose futures hang in the balance. Education should be a beacon of hope and opportunity for all youth, regardless of their background or circumstances. By depriving them of essential support and resources, we risk extinguishing the flames of potential that burn within each and every one of them. We must reclaim the spirit of inclusivity and support that once defined our school system. Our youth deserve nothing less than a nurturing environment that fosters growth, inspiration, and a sense of belonging, right? Because I know you got to experience that when you were a youth. When you were a kid growing up in a school system, there was always a teacher that stood out to one of us. Think about that. You take that away when you alienate teachers from students. Let us recommit ourselves to fundamental principles of education to empower and uplift our youth, to provide them with the tools and support they need to thrive, and to ensure that every student feels valued, seen, and heard. Going back to taking away, it's not just taking away resources or access to just LGBTQ plus students, it's to everyone. So thinking about your children, your grandchildren, the community.
Thank you.
You're harming them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Forstier, and then Esther Rockwell.
Welcome to the podium.
Thank you. My name is Julie Forrester, and I understand that you are all tired of us showing up here week after week. We are tired as well. But as long as you continue to focus on things like identifying undocumented students and attacking our First Amendment rights to public comment time, we will continue to show up. You are the source of the discomfort you are experiencing. Long public comment time is not the root of your issues. Your agenda and actions are. If the board were to focus on student achievement and having the highest quality public school opportunities for all students, the public comment would align with that. What I want to know is, why was extending public comment time back to 3 minutes a good idea when Proud Boys and Moms for Liberty members were showing up here and attacking Tom Edwards? None of you had a problem with public comment time then. So why is it that now that the community is showing up and speaking out against all of the harmful things this board is doing, that suddenly public comment is under attack? I also have to say that the false narrative that you, Mrs. Rose, and you, Mrs. Ziegler, are attempting to create around outside organizations influencing this board is an insult to our intelligence, and it isn't going to work. We are community members who have gotten ourselves organized in response to the harm you are creating. The only outside organizations that have played a role in influencing our school board are the Proud Boys, Moms for Liberty, and the Leadership Institute, which you, Ms. Rose, and you, Ms. Ziegler, are closely involved with. We see through your attempts to manipulate the narrative. We will continue to show up and bring more and more people with us to these meetings. The solution is to spend time addressing the concerns we've brought to you over and over again. Silencing us won't end well for you. I'm sure you've all heard the adage that when you find yourself in a hole, it's time to stop digging. It's literally never too late to stop digging. And to everyone watching from home, it's never too late to show up to a school board and let your voices be heard. And it's definitely not too late to get your mail-in ballot and vote in August. There's also somebody who was talking about being woke like it was a bad thing. And I just want to say I am proudly woke, because being woke literally means being awake. The entire community is waking up and paying attention. So I just want to say thank you, because your hateful rhetoric is now fueling this movement of love. And that's what we're about, is love and inclusion and supporting students and teachers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Esther Rockwell, then Xander Moritz.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Esther Rockwell. I'm the mother of 4 adult sons, and I have 8 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. In fact, my oldest great-grandson is going to become a doctor. And my youngest son went to Riverview at that time. I want to thank this board for accomplishing what it was required to do by improving academics, restore parental rights, give us greater transparency, take the CRT out, no sex changes, and parents are included in their children's decisions. That is the reason this board won, and by focusing on reading, math, English, history, and civics. This board won by focusing on reading, math, and science, which is why children go to school. Not to believe in woke theology or correct pronouns. But the people who continually come here complain about book banning, even though no pornographic books have been banned. Why? Is it because they need to find fault as a reason to remove this conservative board who are doing so much good? Allowing children to read pornographic books in school will only create the very problems we are desperately trying to avoid. Are they insane? Instead of woke theology, we should be teaching common sense. The same people who come here all the time complain about this excellent board and want them removed so they can again control the board with liberals. They want to prove they want their power back, and will do whatever they can to retain it. But parents of children do not want their children to be indoctrinated with woke beliefs. They do not want boys in the girls' bathrooms or locker rooms or vice versa. They are here to fight to get back their liberal power. Don't fall for it. The vitriol that I have heard going on in this meeting today shows that they have very little interest in being fair. If anyone, they show how hateful they can be. And if by any chance they complain about children going to private schools and charter schools, it's the very reason that they do not want to hear this kind of stuff in the school system, so they are going there.
Thank you.
Xander Moritz and Lily Brock.
Welcome to the podium.
Can y'all hear me? Cool. Bridget, in 2014, you were appointed to the Sarasota County School Board by Governor Rick Scott. What you entirely lacked in educational or policymaking experience, you made up for in your marriage to our then elected state committeeman, turned vice chair, turned international disgrace. I remind us where the circus began because it didn't start with you wanting to volunteer for your children in schools and then deciding they deserve better. It didn't start with you teaching in classrooms and then deciding you wanted to continue your service. Your political career started with a friend of your family giving you a political appointment. It didn't even start with an election. And that appointment began the trend of the Sarasota County School Board putting politics before students and before teachers. This trend accelerated, Robin, I'm talking to you, with Ron DeSantis, who sicked a slate of anti-queer, anti-trans, anti-immigrant, and anti-black laws on our public school system and became the first governor in Florida's history to politically endorse school board candidates, of which you are one. So, obviously, as you used a political majority and lots of money to do politically evil things that the state has never experienced before, things got very bad. You proudly wrote and passed the Don't Say Gay law, books began to disappear from shelves across Florida, your hate group, Moms for Liberty, began to grow, then AP African American History was banned, and then the Don't Say Gay law was expanded. As you and your party did this, parents, students, teachers begged you to stop. We begged you to listen to us while we told you that these policies made students unsafe. Robin, I'm still talking to you. Instead, you toured the country and lied to other mothers about how to gain power on their school boards by villainizing trans and immigrant children for money. And so, Florida's fascism spread. And for a while, all of this made people hopeless. But now, things are changing. Last year, 70% of Moms for Liberty-backed candidates lost their elections. This year, 21 of the 22 anti-LGBTQ+ laws proposed in our state legislature were defeated, thanks in large part to people like Sarah. Ron DeSantis has begun to backpedal on his book bans, and the Don't Say Gay law that you claimed was a brilliant step forward for parental rights was just rolled back because the state of Florida agreed it was a harmful law. Things are changing. Things are changing from Sarasota to Tallahassee, and I encourage each of you that has not already permanently lost the trust of this district to be a part of that change, because there will not be room on this board for you if you're not. Also, I know that because you may disagree with us, Robin, it might be hard to understand why this community continues to show up meeting after meeting to ask for your help. I actually get that. But I don't need to agree with you for you to represent me. And you don't need to agree with me for you to represent me. All I need to do is participate in the ways that I can, and all you need to do is listen and take action in the ways that you can, Robin. We're doing what we can. Your students who cannot even vote yet are doing what they can. Please don't take that away from us. We're doing what we can. Please instead, listen to us as we beg you to do something, and then maybe one day you won't have to.
Thank you.
Lily Brock, and then Melissa Bartolos.
Welcome to the podium.
Thank you. So I'm largely no notes because I am not going to say the things I thought I would tonight. A couple of things, though. First, I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor of a rainbow congregation, and I'm a little dismayed by the idea that you don't really want to listen. I'm also part of a congregation that is a congregational body, which means that it is much like our governmental democracy, where the congregation gets the last word. And so I had a therapist tell me one time, as I was trying to learn to be in this congregational system, that when people repeat themselves over and over and over and over again, they do it because they don't feel heard. And so if you wonder why we keep showing up over and over and over and over again, it's because we don't feel heard by you. We feel like you're just sitting there, staring at us with blank faces, and nothing changes. It seems to me it also leaks over into the idea that you don't sit down and talk to queer kids, to black kids, to brown kids, to immigrant kids. What about their stories? Have you ever heard them? Have you ever asked? Do you care at all? I hope that somehow your heart will change in that way. Listen to real kids, real teachers and their stories. I also want to give you a little woke theology. In the Hebrew scripture, there is a passage that says you become the God you believe in. If I look at many of you on the board and your actions toward children who are different than you have a notion they should be, then you believe in a God that is vengeful and judgmental and exclusive and downright mean. I believe God always errs on the side of love and compassion, and I hope you will too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Bartolos, and then Paulina Testerman.
Welcome.
Thank you. Melissa Bartolos, Sarasota County resident for almost 20 years, first school board meeting here. As a tax-paying American, as a lifelong Floridian and a child of immigrants, I am getting more and more frustrated by the state of this school board. National scandals are a distraction, but small-minded thinking is harmful and dangerous. Students in this community should not have to go to school in an environment where fear and hate dominate. Sarasota deserves so much better. The school system should be protecting and supporting students and creating a culture of lifelong learning. It's the exact opposite that's happening, though. It is time for some people on this board, at least one person, to ride off into that sunset. It is time for a new day with a focus on educating and creating a space where all the students are safe, all the students belong, and all the students have opportunity, the same opportunity that I had when my parents came over from another country where they did not speak English. You want to champion liberty and freedom? So do I. I want to be free to speak out. I want students to be free to be themselves. I want teachers to be free to do their jobs. And I want the school system to be free of drama, and most importantly, free of hate. And I don't know how you do that with Bridget Ziegler on this board. Thank you.
Paulina Testerman, and then Anya Dennison.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Paulina Testerman. This is my 58th school board public comment. Despite attending these school board meetings pretty regularly, I want the public to know that I have zero background in education. In fact, I work in healthcare. But you don't need a background in education to see firsthand that this board majority is not only mismanaging our tax dollars, but they are also nominating their friends to committees that mismanage our tax dollars, and then nominating their same friends to other committees that oversee the mismanagement. You don't need a PhD in education to see that this board majority is solely committed to seeking power and not bettering public education. For example, Mrs. Rose, on August 15th, you suddenly had a hankering to redistrict the county, a decision that wasted well over $40,000 of our tax dollars. But why? Why did you suddenly want to redistrict when we had just redistricted 2 years previously? Anyone who's paying close attention knows that Mrs. Rose always has an ulterior political motive, and we all waited patiently for the evidence to show itself. So it came as no surprise when 2.5 months later, candidate Greg Wood announced that he would run in District 5, and guess what? Mr. Wood would not have been able to run in District 5 had Ms. Rose not redistricted. How very convenient. Folks, pay attention. These board members do not respect the sanctity of elections or democracy. They will cheat and lie and move the goalposts to ensure that they have the upper hand. In looking up the details of the redistricting saga, I started to wonder who was funding Mrs. Rose's campaign. So I hopped on the Supervisor of Elections page and looked up the first round of contributions. I couldn't help but notice that Mrs. Rose, of the 44 contributions to your campaign, if I removed your husband's contributions and your own, it seems that 89% of your $43,000 that you brought in was from developers and those in the housing construction business. 89%. I encourage you all to go to the Supervisor of Elections office and check yourself. Isn't it interesting? Meanwhile, your opponent, Liz Barker, received 4 times as many contributions, 178, but somehow raised $8,000 less than you did. How can that be? It's because Liz Barker is getting contributions from working class residents, not developers. Working class folks give what they can, not $1,000 maximum contributions that your developer friends are forking over. I also want to discuss this board's plan to limit public comments. This next point is really, really important. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, if you're sick and tired of hearing public comments, good news. We're sick and tired of being here. At least you're getting paid to be here. We come here for free. If you want us to stop coming, the solution is easy. Stop with the corruption, stop with the lies, stop with the sex scandals, stop with the hypocrisy, stop with the rampant politicking, and stop with the endless victimhood routines. As soon as you start leading with an ounce of professionalism, nonpartisan integrity, you won't see any of us here. We don't take joy in this. You're taking time away from our children. We don't like coming here. We feel we have no choice.
Thank you.
Anya Dennison, and then Jessica Thomason.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Anya, a graduate of Sarasota Schools. Stop wasting our money. Karen, why are you okay with wasting our tax dollars on redistricting, firing a capable superintendent, and letting Bridget send the new superintendent on a literally illegal mission to see if you can track students' immigration status? Why are you okay with funding that, but not a necessary potential lawsuit, to keep for-profit charter schools out of Sarasota? Is it not worth the legal fees to keep $15 million in the public schools you oversee? You say it's a financial burden, but is it actually when you've already wasted so much of our money? Is it really when $15 million are on the line? It was just last meeting that we talked about how putting the same person on the finance and the audit committees opens the district up to fraud. This is a whole lot of fiscal responsibility since becoming chair in just November. How are we supposed to trust you with our tax dollars when you seem to be mishandling them in a new way every single week? It would be great to see you step up and do your job instead of wasting the money we give you. There's not a secret reason we tell you not to make choices that set our money on fire. It's because it's the right thing to do. Your constituents are smart people. Don't insult them by ignoring them. Also, I just want to flag that if you read the Don't Say Gay settlement, you will see that every single thing that the Don't Say Gay law changed in our public schools over the last 2 years has been reverted back. Unfortunately, conservative politicians in Florida like to lie about what they're doing to their voters. Don't fall for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Thomason, and then Liz Barker.
Welcome to the podium.
Good evening. Lately, speakers are coming out in droves with the audacity to petition their government. Some elected officials might reflect on that and consider whether or not they're meeting the needs of all their constituents if this many people are taking time out of their schedules to show up and speak, but not this board. I listened to the last work session when public comment was discussed. Thank you, Tom Edwards, for defending the public's right to speak. Karen Rose and Robin Marinelli, you were both incredibly quick to minimize public comment. And it's interesting, Robin, because 2 months ago, you said, I'll stay here till midnight, I don't care, but then stated in the work session that if you can't say it in 1 to 2 minutes, it's just too long. You made the point that there are staff here that have to be at work at 8 a.m., and I appreciate that, but you said it as if none of us have jobs to go to tomorrow either. As Paulina said, at least you're getting paid to sit here 24 days a year. Then during the affordable housing discussion, you emphasized the fact that teachers should be educated on how to budget their money, and that many of them might not have learned that growing up. You seem to be under the impression that only new college graduates are struggling on a teacher's salary. Allow me to give you a reality check. Tenured teachers with dual incomes are struggling too. When you and Karen worked at Southside in the 90s, average teacher salary in Sarasota was $32,000 a year. Today's equivalent to that would be $68,000, but our teachers are getting paid an average of $58,000. The home that you bought in the 90s for like $90,000 and a bushel of raspberries should be around $200,000 adjusted for inflation, but would actually cost over $500,000 today. That's over 6 times the yearly salary of a starting teacher. So no, Robin, our teachers aren't just eating too much avocado toast, it's math. Maybe you could ask a teacher to explain it to you. Karen, you suggested faculty could live in portables on campus. I don't think that's the perk you think it is. I doubt many would want to live in a mobile home behind the cafeteria of their employer. The two of you could not be more out of touch. But the real icing on the cake was hearing Bridget in the final minutes of member comments proceed to suggest that we should be tracking the immigration status of our students, suggesting they're a burden. You even asked Mr. Connor, who I'm sure has better things to do, to look into this. What a waste of time when you simply could have Googled it. In 1982, the Supreme Court ruled in Plyler v. Doe that it was a violation of the 14th Amendment to deny education to any child regardless of immigration status. In fact, it is unlawful for a district to even ask a student about their immigration status. And look, I get it. The border is a big hot topic right now for your base, but the reality, Bridget, is that student enrollment in Sarasota is down. We are not seeing an influx of undocumented immigrants. And in fact, even if we were, education is largely funded by sales tax, which everyone who lives here pays, and property tax. And this might surprise you.
Thank you.
All right.
Liz Barker, and then Sebastian Gerstel.
Welcome.
Superintendent Connor, board members, good evening. I'm Liz Barker, mom of 4 children in Sarasota County Public Schools, former school psychologist, president of the PTO at Lakeview Elementary School, and candidate for school board. I appreciate all the comments tonight about our First Amendment rights. I appreciate the comments about being inclusive, but I want to switch gears a little bit to talk about what's happening right now in our school district. In the last 2 weeks, I've had many conversations with teachers, primarily at our Title I schools, who were recently informed about significant budget cuts next school year and the probability of being surplused from their schools. The reason for these budget cuts is a combination of cuts to federal Title I funding, the loss of ESSER dollars, and all of this is compounded by the declining enrollment and funds lost to universal vouchers. To put these cuts into perspective, Emma E. Booker is a school of only about 450 students, and over 94% of those students qualify for a free or reduced lunch. It's projected to lose 8 positions next school year. These are the same positions that were instrumental in moving Emma from an F to a C rating, and this loss will make it much more difficult for them to continue to meet the specific needs of their student population and maintain that level of achievement. Equally concerning is the data we have about the catastrophic impact that universal voucher programs have on student achievement. In states with programs similar to Florida, the majority of students who left their public schools on a voucher returned to their public schools within 2 years, and in the time they were gone, they lost an entire year of learning. Why then, given the danger that universal voucher programs pose not only to our school budgets but to the learning of our students, does this board majority refuse to advocate against it? The fact is that you as board members were elected to represent our families, my family, our educators, and our community. Some of you used your status as career educators to gain our trust. And yet over and over and over again, you betrayed that trust. Over and over again, you chose party politics over our schools. You've wasted hundreds of thousands of tax dollars on your personal and political agendas, and we are just now beginning to see what that looks like in our schools. Unfortunately, I'm afraid this is just the beginning.
Thank you.
Sebastian Gerstel, and then Nicole Solomon.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board Member, Superintendent Connor. I'm Sebastian Gerstel, a junior at Riverview High School. You know, when I think of the last 13 years of when I've been going to Sarasota County schools, I think of the most influential people that I've met throughout that time. When I started at Gulfgate Elementary, the principal, Miss Majak, can't forget her. She knew every kid by name. You always knew when there was testing time, she wore socks and she walked the halls, and she still somehow knew your name. She had 700 kids and she knew everyone's name. I was in middle school. I wasn't doing great in 6th grade. All of a sudden, I get called into the principal's office, not for trouble, but because she was helping me through math. And, you know, and I've had educators throughout that time do so many great things. And it's those kinds of people that make our district so great. It's those kinds of people that make the environments that allow every student to succeed no matter where they've come from. And over the past, now coming close to 3 years at Riverview, I've seen the exact opposite of that. I've seen what happens when you have a leader who puts herself first instead of her own staff and instead of the students. What I've seen at that school is complete disregard for the policies of this district, this state, and even federal laws. She has zero intention of correcting course. She had the opportunity to. You know, you think when a 16-year-old comes to your office and says, "Why do teachers feel scared of you?" you think there'll be a correction. Nothing happened. Instead, she blamed the teachers. She always doubled down. And when you speak up against it, you get investigated. That's what's happened to teachers. You know, since 2019, up until now, there have been 237 HR investigations. 115 of them were at Riverview High School. That's nearly 50% at one school. When I asked her about it, what does she say? She says, "We must be doing a better job than anyone else." Madam Chair, Superintendent Connor, it is evidently clear, and through the report that I've given you today, with evidence, that it is time for change at Riverview, for the educators, for the students, and for the future of that school, which was once, in my opinion, the greatest school in Sarasota County. Board members, Superintendent Connor, it is with that I have to say it's time to terminate the principal of Riverview High School, and it's time to move on with new, fresh leadership that respects the rules and lifts people up, because that's what a principal does. They're the anchor of stability, not the master of chaos. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Nicole Solomon, and then Joel Palumbo.
Welcome to the podium.
Hello, thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Solomon. I was born in Honduras. I moved to Sarasota in 2008. I attended Gulfgate Elementary, Imagine School at Palmer Ranch, and I am a graduate of Riverview High School. I will be graduating from the University of South Florida with a bachelor's degree in psychology this May, and later this summer I will embark on graduate school to obtain a master's degree in elementary education. I have never spoken at a school board meeting before, and I never spoke out of turn in school, but today I'm pushing past my fear of public speaking to advocate for all teachers and students. I'm here to implore the public to vote on August 20th. I'm here to tell you that if the citizens of Sarasota County don't start paying attention, then politicians will continue to enrich themselves at the expense of our taxpayer dollars. I urge anyone listening to thoroughly research and investigate before attending these meetings, but please attend these meetings when you can. The children in our public schools are being robbed and teachers are being vilified. From mere observation, it is evident that our public schools need more support. Do you all want our public school system to fail? I will be voting for Liz Barker and Tom Edwards. These individuals have proven their commitment and support of public education and the safety of our children. I plead with this community to participate in voting if you are registered. Please vote early, by mail, or go to the polls on Election Day. Make a difference for the lives of our most vulnerable children. Use your fundamental rights and contribute to the democratic process. Our children deserve more. Our teachers deserve more. We desperately need to ensure that this school board is comprised of leaders. Barker and Edwards, this August 20th. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Joel Palumbo, and then Jose Santana.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Joel Palumbo. I wanted to speak a little bit about what it means to be professional. I am a resident of Sarasota County. Both of my children went to Riverview High School. They graduated in the Riverview IB program, and I am very grateful for that program. I am a retired teacher. I have taught for over 20 years. I had the pleasure of teaching in schools around the world, from Japan to Germany to India to Turkey and the United States. And I've been following, although my children are no longer in the public school system, I do follow what has been happening here. And I have to say, it seems to me that the school board, you have one job, and that one job is to hire the best teachers that you possibly can, and to trust those teachers. And I don't see that happening in terms of the trust. Whether it is the list of books, whether it is all of these, what teachers can say, what they can't say. We live in a world, a very diverse world. We're here in little Sarasota. Pull out a little bit. What are we trying to do? We're trying to educate our students, our children, to function in the world, in a global society, to solve problems. And guess what? They need to hear diverse opinions. Okay, so it's actually very simple. Hire the best teachers that you possibly can. Teachers are professionals. I have an undergraduate degree. I have a master's degree. I have a teaching certificate. I did teacher training. For me to listen, and that a chaplain should be able to come in and work with public school students without any training, that a veteran should be able to come and teach in a classroom without a teaching certificate? You've got to be kidding me. Are we really talking about that? Let's pull back and let's look at some other professions. How about law, medicine, or the trades, electrician? Are you going to say to a doctor, hey, you can be an electrician if you want to? You can say to a butcher, you want to be a doctor if you want to? What? This is ludicrous. Teachers are professionals. They've been trained. Act accordingly. The last thing that I want to say is that, you know, this situation here, this is a representation of...
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Jose Santana, and then Geert Martins.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jose Santana, and I just wanted to express my happiness at the reversal of the Don't Say Gay bill. In specific, I'm looking forward to this board's actions in light of this decision, as y'all have made it clear that you are staunch constitutional officers and defenders. I implore you to publicly make it clear to all Sarasota County educators that they can make their classrooms safe spaces again, and one key thing I would like to see eliminated expeditiously is the nickname form that forces students to obtain a parent's signature for their educators to call them by a chosen name. Children are not puppets, they are autonomous beings in their own right, and one of the ways that they can exert their sense of self is through what they are called and known as. To require this form continually is still stripping these children of their personhood and insisting that they are mere extensions of their parents' desires, beliefs, and notions of what that child should be. Are we trying to raise a new generation of autonomous adults, or are we ensuring that these children will remain beholden to the will of their parents for time immemorial? Therefore, I am heavily anticipating the public acknowledgments and actions of this school board to reverse the harm you have caused to children who had to out or silence themselves in the face of unsupportive families. I truly do hope that you all can take the lead in reversing these transgressive policies. This reversal means that queer, Black, and brown characters deserve to be on the shelves, that anti-bullying programs can talk about the harm of anti-queer sentiment, that teachers can label their classrooms as safe spaces, that students can say gay in their commencement speeches, that straight gay alliances are welcomed and supported, and that teachers can directly support their queer students without walking on eggshells. Let's change our schools back to the safe spaces that so many of our children are not afforded at home. Schools are places to be curious, not restricted. These policies only make more children less likely to want to show up and learn, so let's ensure that students and staff publicly know that they can do the simple act of expressing themselves without dire repercussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Geert Martins, followed by Carol Miller.
Good evening. My name is Geert Martins, and I'm a Sarasota County resident and tired of seeing millions in taxes wasted, as pointed out by previous speakers. Students have a right to a fact-based, high-quality education in a safe environment where they are treated with dignity and respect, and that goes for all students, including gay, trans, and immigrant kids. In the same vein, the parents have the right to be meaningfully involved in their children's learning and to allow them access to a diverse set of educational material. It should not be because of the political affiliation or personal conviction of a board member that books are being banned. That is not liberty for all, that is plain discrimination, and that coming from a founding member of Moms for Liberty. What hypocrisy. A few times in my late teens, I thought of suicide. The thought of suicide came across my mind. Now, it was, however, because of access to the very books you are banning, available in the classroom and library, and in the end an accepting family, that I am still here. It is my hope that the board members who voted for the banning of these books have a child or grandchild that turns out to be gay or trans. This way you'll get to experience up close what it is like, and maybe you will come to realize that book banning can be very detrimental and have enormous consequences. I am sure none of you want a young adult's death on your conscience. I also learned that Bridget Ziegler has her 3 children in a private school.
Excuse me, we're not going to discuss children of board members.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Although Sarasota schools are A-rated, I wonder what you're doing here, Bridget. Are you here to sabotage, destroy our public school system? Your behavior and actions only confirm that. Therefore, Bridget, do us a favor and resign from the board. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you.
Carol Miller. And then Bill Neese.
Welcome to the podium.
Good evening. My name's Carol Miller. I am the president of PFLAG Sarasota, and I've lived in this community for over 40 years. I have heard quite a bit tonight about how this board does not listen, which is absolutely true. You sit up there pretending that what we talk about matters, yet you really don't care. So I would like to remind you to listen and please act accordingly to the people who are your community and constituents that have important things to say that you seem to want to ignore. It's not right to take the public comment and reduce it because it serves a purpose. If you don't like it, it's still serving a purpose, and you can just tune out the way that you've usually done. What I am going to do now is make a suggestion, because I don't think it's happened yet, is for you to apologize to the families of this community and of Sarasota County. Apologize to the queer students' families, apologize to the queer teachers and staff that you have offended. And I've heard many times from many people here that you are harming and hurting, yet you don't listen and you want to ignore. You owe this community an apology for being harmful and hurtful. And I wish you would stop, and Bridget Ziegler must resign. She's useless. Thank you.
And the final speaker of the night, Bill Neese.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Bill Neese. I've been here a few times. I think I came when we were having a discussion about some of these issues about 4 or 5 years ago. And at that time, there was a whole different set of board members, minus one, sitting in those chairs. And there was a lot of people here, and they were on the opposite side of this current discussion. And in that process, I made a comment that a lot of the people that can't be here were home putting their kids in bed and feeding them and giving them homework, encouragement. And I kind of represented a lot of those people. And over the years, I've worked very diligently to ensure that those people are represented. And I know it's impossible to represent everybody. And I think that's, pretty clear to everyone. And there are clear political agendas. In fact, in that particular meeting, I distinctly remember one of the school board members railing about President Trump. And I was going, what in the world does that have to do with the school board? In fact, that was a central issue of people's opinions, political things. And so this isn't the first go-around. There are consequences to elections. There are things that happen, and there are political views. And those political views are expressed by the people who vote individuals in. This is not a democracy, it is a republic. Remember Benjamin Franklin's famous statement? It was, what do you have here, Mr. Franklin? Well, it's a republic if you can keep it, which is a representative form of government. And people who vote people in have opinions. So this is a reality, and I'm here to say I'm an encourager, and I'm encouraging us to stay the course of being a better school district and up our school reading scores and move everybody up on an equal basis. Doesn't matter what they look like. Working to get all those kids at that proper level is what this school board is about. And I believe that all of you are sincerely invested in that, despite everything that's being said tonight. And I thank you for it. And because I'm the last speaker, I'm going to say, amen.
Thank you. Superintendent Connor, additions and corrections to the agenda, please.
Madam Chair, we had an amendment added to item 7, which was the instructional classified personnel report.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consented agenda as presented.
As amended.
As amended.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Seeing no comments or questions, please vote on the consent agenda as amended. And the consent agenda as amended passes unanimously. New business, item number 42, to advertise revised board policies. Mr. Connor, you'd like to share something?
Yes, Madam Chair, on our March 19th workshop, we discussed the following policies. These are brand new policies added: 9.40, advertising of commercial activities; 7.85, online educational service agreement / contracts; and 6.271, staff and student communication. So during the workshop, there were no changes or corrections to any of the recommended revisions requested by the board. So we are asking permission to advertise these policies where we will publish the required public notices for each, allowing us to bring these back to the May 7th board meeting for formal adoption.
Seeing no questions, do I have a motion?
Sure. I move that the request to advertise revised board policies 6.271, 7.85, and 9.40 be approved as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that the request to advertise revised policies 6.271, 7.85, and 9.40 be approved as presented. Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Asking if we have any board members with final comments. please request to speak if you do. Mr. Edwards, please.
Thanks. Let the record reflect that I have the floor until I yield back. The first thing that I wanted to just clear up was that for public comments, item 4, I think, was one that was discussed. That was what the previous public comment was. So it was to have agenda items, public comments, before the board voted on anything agenda related, and that is lawful, and then general comments were at the end of the meeting. So that was what was. It was stated in somewhere along the line in public comments tonight, and I just wanted to clear up that that was in fact what had been voted away. The second thing that I'd like to do is, I know Superintendent Connor and I talked about this, but I just want to be on, make it a public record, that we publicly noticed the Financial Advisory Committee meeting. I believe Mr. Connor said that it is already, but I just want to reconfirm that, because I plan on attending those. And I think other board members might want to do the same. I'm a little concerned that those meetings have gotten a little off the rails from what they were intended to and to be. I'm looking forward to hearing our report from the CFO and Ms. Truitt coming up. But I want to make sure that the Financial Advisory Committee is within the guardrails that it was intended to be. Lastly, I saw an article this week, and I know this is something that a couple of us board members have spoken about. There was an article this week in Florida about exit interviews for teachers when they leave employ. And what I loved about it, because I perused a lot of that data, is that it's data that I've heard often about our own teachers when they leave, but we have no document of that. And I really think it's an important component, because as I read that data, there was a lot of information in there that could pertain to affordable housing, that could pertain to a lot of the challenges that our teachers are facing that we're missing or that are not ever discussed on the dais. So I strongly recommend that we incorporate that as a procedure, that we formalize and conduct exit interviews, not just for teachers, but for everyone. I think that's important information. So I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Any other board members would have final comments? Mr. Enos.
I would just like to thank everybody for their time. When we look at safety and security as we continue to move forward, as it gets to the end of the year, just make sure that, I want to thank all of our SROs and all of the local law enforcement agencies that we collaborate with. I just would like to say to any parent that if you get anything that you think is suspicious, especially this time of year, especially what's still going on in the country, to make sure that you bring it forward. So that all of those issues will be looked into, because without question, I know as everybody on this board is about the safety and security of our students, and we want to make sure that everybody graduates or everybody moves on at the end of the year. So if you have any of those concerns, please report them ASAP so they can be investigated and we can look at. This is the time of the year where swatting, unfortunately, is at its highest peak. There recently was a story that just came out. If you don't know what swatting is, it's where somebody makes a fake call and law enforcement responds out there, thus the SWAT issue, and they do it to be intentionally to disrupt the school and the education of the kids in order to create anxiety. So just, again, if you hear of anything or you hear something that's going on out there, please bring it forward to us. I know that Superintendent Connor, the board, and all the teachers and the staff, the safety and the security of the staff and the students are paramount. So with that, thank you for everybody's time tonight that came out, that spoke. Thank you.
Ms. Marinelli, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make the public aware and also to give a thanks to Ashton Elementary that I believe it was last week, or they had a parent night, and I thought it was very well attended, but they had a speaker who talked about their children's behavior and things that they could do at home, and they're going to be doing a book study. So I just wanted to give the principal, Christy Jarvis, and her staff, teachers, counselors that were there, the behavior specialist, and then they had different sessions that parents could go to. So I think that it just showed the commitment that they have to their parents, and I just wanted to bring it to their attention, and I thank them for the invitation.
Thank you, Ms. Marinelli. I want to thank our staff for your hard work as we culminate this meeting, and recognize that it's showing in our results. Reading scores are up in third grade, mid-year to mid-year, which has not happened in a while. Excites me beyond comprehension that our students are improving in a very needed area. And I thank you for the hard work. And Superintendent Connor, I thank you as well for your leadership, and appreciate all the participation this evening. Thank you very much. And the next monthly work session is scheduled for Tuesday, April 16th at 10 o'clock a.m., followed by a 3 o'clock p.m. board meeting. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
I'm going to go to bed.